21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
Boom. Happy hump day. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and anons alike over here in Rambo and Frens? Welcome. I am super excited about today. It has been too long since we got to hang out with these two. Let me just give a real quick brief intro before we get started. Look, if you are sensitive, if you are emotional about this process, if you are not willing to explore ideas outside the range of what you might already have within your belief system, this might not be the show for you. I'm just going to be real with you. What we do when we have these two gentlemen on the show is we explore many different options and possibilities, and a lot of them will go against your thought processes and belief systems and emotions as far as this movement is concerned. It happens all the time, and people get upset every damn time. And a lot of the people that have watched these shows come to find a greater sense of an open thinking process by the end. And I think that that would be my goal if we're going to do it this way, right? So I love these two. I don't sit here and go, no, F you. I don't believe it ever. I always take it into full consideration, because it turns out that the way they think might just be online with some things I believe in the end. So what I would encourage you to do is either promptly leave if your feelings are going to get hurt, or hang out and have an open mind. So with that being said, let's hear from the dude himself.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
Gentlemen, what's going on? Hold on.
Hey, guys.
Let me do one at a time so you guys don't step on each other.
Oh, it's so bad.
All right. That's the most gay thing I've seen all day today. What's up, JFAnon? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I love you guys.
Oh, it's gonna be all.
All right, that's so gay. I'll turn that off. I figured before I thought it was Joe doing it, but apparently it's my Mac thing.
Where's Joe? Somebody asked where I am. I'm right here. What do you mean? I'm like, which Joe we talking about? Where's Joe? I'm right here. What's up? Well, let me, Paul. What's going on, buddy? Welcome.
It's for the QR code, man. No,
yeah, I can get rid of that.
No, no, leave it.
I have been. When I have 3 guests, I've been getting rid of it. The QR code, it's also running across the banner. I'm going to take it off because you're right. It shouldn't be in the way. Well, let me
now they're looking
explain.
at a drill press.
The QR code is because it was actually multiple people asked me for a way that they could support the show when they watch the replay, because we might have 1,000 people, 2,000, 3,000 watch.
Yeah, put it up. I was just giving you shit.
Well, I'll do it. I'll do it later. You know, I don't want it there when you're talking anyway. I typically take it down. Maybe I'll put it back up. Maybe I won't. But running across the banner, you'll see the same deal. let me do some technical things just for everybody. I think you'll all notice very quickly if you've been watching the show every day that my microphone is different. So I'm trying a different setup today. I kicked the kids out. I made them stay outside for the next 2 hours because this microphone seems to pick up everything. I would like to get some feedback if you guys don't mind today, as I am trying to, with the new platform, work on different technical things we talked about yesterday that we're working on a new computer. But this microphone and audio setup is different because people did request it. The directional mic is sitting over there on the floor, and the one that picks up everything is actively being used. So let me know throughout the show if you think that it's working better, if I should go back to the other one, and I'd be super grateful to hear that.
I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. I'm working on soundboards. I'm working on microphones. I'm working on computers. I'm self-teaching, right? You guys are, look, Snapioplex is like one of the most, he's the smartest guy I know on the planet. And John, you are a business mind through and through. Two guys that I absolutely look up to in the way that you've handled your lives. I didn't exactly handle my life that way, but somehow got thrust into this movement with you guys. And now I'm doing something I'm passionate about, and I'm just trying to learn as I go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're good at this, though. You're good at being a host. I think your authenticity, it's all, I know I've said this before to you. I don't know if I've said it publicly, but for sure, you know, and I can't wait till we meet for the first time, like in person. That's going to be awesome. You saw what I did to Paul.
It's only fair to do that to Joe, too.
Absolutely. Public display of affection. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I think people had enough time to pile in. Let me do just real quick to thank them, not just get them out of the way. Let's say I've a really bad habit of skipping over the sponsors, but the sponsors are helping the show out, and it's going to help me do all those things that I'm talking about technically. So let me say thank you to them quick, and then we can move on with the content instead of skipping them all together, which I've a bad habit of doing. So obviously Mike Lindell. So Mike Lindell jumped right on board right away when I left Brainstorm and came over here. I could not be more grateful for that. And the dude is a patriot through and through. He has continued the conversation when it comes to this movement, especially when it comes to election integrity. And his products are amazing. And he hires nothing but Americans. And I have a whole bunch of the products and I love them. So if you're going to go over and use MyPillow, please, by all means, use Rambo as your promo code, just like you see on everybody else's show. The dude's brilliant when it comes to advertising. I'll give him that. And then for sure, Kofefi.coffee. Let me bring this over here. We all can see it. Kofefi.coffee is a project that I'm super stoked about because it's got so many great anons and patriots involved. Everybody's got their own flavor, their own coffee brand. You want to talk about a patriot / anon movement. I mean, you guys have all seen me do it before, but I want to say it. I am super grateful for Pepe Deluxe and 8-Track for putting this together. And if you look through here, you will see nothing but amazing people involved in this project. So please, if you drink coffee, go over to kofeficoffee.com, buy yourself some Rambo roast, and support any of these other guys you see on here as well. So thank you for letting me do that. And I will formally go back to saying hi to you guys. How you been? It's been a while.
I feel good, man. I just watched my daughter go through high school commencement last night. To say it was emotional might be an understatement, but I think it's kind of like this is the beginning of this crescendo that goes until August 20th when we drop her off at school, and I'm going to be an absolute puddle.
Was anybody sending you some obnoxious stuff on your phone while that commencement was happening, John?
You asshole. Obnoxious?
I almost made him spit his water out.
Yeah, I'm sitting there and it's jammed, and I've got, my wife to my right, and I've got other parents to my left, and people behind us. So if I lift up my phone to look at what I just got sent from Paul, I'm like, no, I'm going to have to wait, because I looked at the first one. I don't think anybody saw it, but
such a jerk.
You asshole. It was like, I think I deleted him because I didn't want my wife seeing him. I mean, there was rainbow dildos and
Oh no.
Crayons. Lots of crayons.
Can I ask you a real question?
Yeah.
So it's no secret that the oldest daughter in this house was put through some stuff, right? I've talked about it certainly with you two. The stepfather. There's four kids that were in this house before I got here. The youngest two were the children of the father that's now in prison for, we'll say, crossing the line with his oldest stepdaughter, right? Just to keep it PG. You can fill in the blank. But I went to her graduation on Friday, and it was awesome. The girls turned into quite a beautiful, stable, level-headed adult,
Yeah.
which I'm already thoroughly impressed by. But the point I want to make is I want to hear if you had the same experience, John. I listened to some speeches from some kids that were heavily traumatized from not going to school, from wearing masks, from socially distancing, from having class on the computer. I mean, the speeches I heard they were, I don't know if I was the only one that was like, choking back tears, but it was really kind of sad to hear. Did you have that same experience where they were acknowledging the COVID time period?
Yeah. One of the ways they did the speeches, sorry, let me kill my email. I don't need that anyway. One of the ways that they did it is they had I think they had 12 or 13 students, and the first one talked about pre-K, and this next one talked about kindergarten, then first grade, second grade, third grade, because the school is K through 12, all on one campus. And they got to the eighth grade, and it was like, yeah, that was when the world shut down, and ninth grade was the same thing. And one of the kid who was talking about ninth grade, actually, he brought down the house with this comment. He goes, everyone was wearing masks. You couldn't tell what people were saying or people were thinking. And you surely couldn't tell which girls were attractive. It's a great comment, but yeah, I mean, they kept it light. But, I know from my experience with my daughter, you'll hear me say her name, Anna. Anna had that experience. She missed the interaction with her friends. It got so bad, especially in the spring when they started the lockdowns. In May, she was really moody, more so than just a teenage girl moody. She was moody because, she didn't have this outlet with her friends. And some of the parents were really restrictive and didn't want their kids going and getting together with other kids. And the damage was pretty bad, I think. I don't know if I'd say incalculable, but maybe it was. I know that a lot of the preschool stuff, all of that development, all of that human development that comes around being able to see somebody's face, that's all been stunted. And it's terrible. Horrible.
I've thought through this pretty deeply because of what I listened to the other night. It was a subject of prayer meditation, that is for sure. And it's, although I think it's an exclamation point on an incident like this, I think that we all kind of went through it ever since participation trophy started. I mean, yeah. Right? I don't want to make this show about the schooling system, the indoctrination camps that we call the public school system. However, we have come to learn who owns the school system. It is an indoctrination camp. So I wonder maybe if besides the social aspects, there might have been a positive side to it. Because, if we're going to talk about white hats and cartoon narratives and control, patriots in control and all those things, do you think that maybe, just maybe, there might be an aspect? This is going to be completely outside the box. I'm going in your guys' direction. Just maybe these kids were saved from some things in the final hours of what we're looking at as this operation. Do you think that's possible? Because that was kind of the answer I got back in prayer.
I mean, I don't know how many people are in the chat have kids that they were going to school and they didn't necessarily know what was going on. And all of a sudden they're doing Zoom and you can hear what the teacher's teaching and how they're teaching. Absolutely. I mean, that's a huge positive effect because I think people were outraged at some of the stuff. I mean, certainly the news articles, again, you know, the stuff you see on the news, you don't know how pervasive it is, but Anna's school is definitely liberal. And the stuff that I saw wasn't surprising in any way, because they kind of knew what you were getting. Yeah, I think that was a something positive to come out of that whole pile of shit.
Go ahead, Paul.
Are we not supposed to swear in this show? Is that what?
No, it's okay. I've kind of pushed through it. We got those thumbs down the time before you guys were on, and then you said the F word like 37 times.
I'm trying to get the reaction.
You dropped. I'm pretty sure we broke through that wall. Anybody that's watching this show is aware that curse word is going to get slipped here and there, and JFAnon for sure likes the F word, so get used to it. Paul, do you have thoughts? I know you don't actively have any kids in school, right?
No. First of all, they're just words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why are you getting offended because I grunted a certain way? In regards to school and the effects, if you think about, 150 years ago, people went to school in a completely different way. There were fewer people in most schools. They had different interactions. So I think the masking thing and just all the bullshit with the social distancing and the screwy, I think the fear probably had a bigger impact on people's behavior than the physical attributes. But there's a whole bunch of changes, but I don't know that there was really severe damage. I mean, one of the data points I have there is look how screwed up I turned out. And maybe that's because I was homeschooled in the last 3 years of high school. So I've never been to a prom. I didn't have tons of friends around me constantly. If your kid goes to, say, a school with, say, 500 to 800 kids in it, that is completely unnatural. Think about 1,000 years ago in or 10,000 years ago in a tribe. You've got maybe 100 or 200 people in the tribe. You know everybody in the tribe. How many kids are there? There's, I don't know, 20, 30, 40. That's not like 500 kids going through an indoctrination camp. It's completely different. So just because during COVID it was different doesn't automatically mean that it was bad. It means it was different. Maybe what was there before was worse. I'm not sure. But humans, are optimal. Like, would anybody argue that what we've been going through before all this bullshit, like 10 years ago, would anybody argue that that's the optimal situation for humans? I think most people alive do think that, and they don't realize it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's interesting about you brought up major questions for me. So when I went to school, and I graduated 2000, right? So I'm getting pretty old, I guess. But we looked at the homeschool kids as kind of weird. Yeah. Right? They were socially awkward. I'm
not awkward. No,
that was a pretty normal thought process, though. It was pretty well agreed on. Like those homeschool kids that every once in a while would come play on a sports team or whatever were a little weird.
Yeah. Did you ever have friends whose parents wouldn't let them watch TV?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was seen as really strange. Like, why would you do that? And now we look back on it and go, holy crap, those parents knew what was going on.
Yes. Dude, I had an uncle that was super religious, and he did not allow dancing at his wedding. I know it's parallel. It's not the same, but it's parallel. Yeah. And his kids have turned out to be amazing members of society, without question. But I remember thinking how weird that was at the wedding. But my other point is, to go back to your point, when my school was very large. We were right outside of Philadelphia. It was a suburb of Philly. And there was hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
I knew pretty much everybody because I was a social butterfly or whatever. So I got along with mostly I was hunting for girls in all parts, the jocks, though. You're right, across the board. I don't care. As long as you're a girl, you're in it with me. So, but what I'm getting at is, maybe that type of atmosphere that you're calling potentially unnatural made me think of the idea that that's why we ended up going in the direction of such liberal social ideals. Like
humans
participation trophies, right? Because bullying is a thing, right?
Yeah, humans look at the consensus and say that must be normal. So as a person who wants to manipulate society, all you have to do is convince most of the morons to do or to think something is normal, and then they start doing it, and everybody else looks at them and says, well, this is good because it's what I'm used to. But it may not be the best thing you can do. I mean, my whole life is kind of the inability to remember what I wanted to say. No, it's an expose of how you can get further if you do things differently than everybody else is doing it. Because I didn't do things the way everybody else did, and everybody was constantly telling me I was going to fail, and they called me weird and all this stuff. And now I know like 7 or 8 careers, and I think it'd be hard to argue that the way I went through life wasn't really effective. But I was doing it differently than everybody else, and a lot of people looked at that and said, well, that's not normal. That's bad.
Well, maybe John can attest to this, but Paul, are you even aware of the social like levels that became like real? Like you had the rich kids, right? You had the jocks, you had the preps.
I actually went through 9th grade in public high school, in a really large high school in California. So I've seen that, and I'm familiar with it. But and I've raised kids that have been in that. So I'm very aware of it. But I'm actually glad I didn't go through that, because a lot of that social stuff I consider completely pointless and actually deleterious to people's success.
Well, John, before you jump in, I want you to jump in. Did you ever go back to a high school reunion, and all of a sudden that was all blurred? It was gone almost, right? Like you still had that in the back of your head where you're like, oh, that was one of the geeks, or that was one of the jocks, or that was one of the rich kids, or preppy kids, or lacrosse kids, or whatever it might be. But when you went back and you finally got into like an hour in and dinner was over and you were talking, you're like, oh, this is just an adult.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of friends. I had friends across every single clique. I wasn't in one particular clique, but only or group, I guess. Clique is kind of a shitty word. There we go again. Oops, I did it again. But what I found is that like there were those kids who like seemingly got in fights every day, and a couple of those guys have come back to some of the reunions, and they're just different guys. They're the guys that are, haven't done super well in life. No surprise. And they're humbled. They've been humbled by life. And it's frustrating. Well, not frustrating. It's normal, but it's also sad that, as a 17-year-old, these guys didn't foresee that, well, it might be a problem if I don't give a shit about school, or don't care about classes, or if I'm shitty to other people. And by the way, one other thing I want to say, the homeschool kids that I knew, they were all awkward. They were all a little weird. But I graduated high school in 1988. And things were different then, for sure. The whole schooling, it wasn't still some indoctrination, yes, except like when I went to college, I had professors that were 100% conservative, and that just doesn't exist at the school I went to anymore. It's so liberal now.
Can I pull a really extreme example out of my ass?
Yeah.
Ass doesn't count. So Thomas Edison left home on his own at age 12, and he lived on after that, he lived on a train and started, I think, 2 publishing businesses where he was basically scooping all the stories between New York and I think Chicago, because he was going back and forth on the trains from New York to Chicago. And that's how he funded all of his later exploits, was basically because he went out as a 12-year-old as an adult and started businesses and survived. Now, people today would say, oh, that's horrible. No. It's a really smart kid who went out and made his way in the world. We think of, when you're 18, you're an adult. Well, Edison was an adult at 12 because he was. I know most 50-year-olds I know I wouldn't consider adults.
Yeah. It's funny, so when I remember when Anna was born, and I remember the thing that I wanted to be able to say when she flew the nest was that she was, I mean, intelligence is one thing, but I wanted her to be strong and confident. And that those are the two main things. I didn't spend much time doing baby talk with her. When she was old enough to talk, probably around 3, we had very adult conversations, and I spoke like an adult. I didn't speak like I was speaking to a kid. And as a result, like, her verbal competency is off the scale, and the kid is brilliant. And she's strong and she's confident. And by the way, I want to tell one story. So I wrote her a card, and I know I've told some of my friends about this. Maybe I've talked to you guys about it, not publicly, but there's a line from a Bob Dylan song. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan. His lyrics are unreal. And for those of you who say, "Oh, I hate his voice," let the voice grow on you. It's good. And no, it's not everybody must get stoned. Because didn't you play that, Joe? Like, loop it forever? Anyway, there's a song that Bob Dylan wrote. It's not it wasn't like one of his hits, but it's called "Up to Me." Go look at the lyrics. Phenomenal. It's a sad song. But the one line that always grabs me is this: "It frightens me, the awful truth of how sweet life can be." And that perfectly encapsulates so many things about the human condition, but especially, like, right now, I see that with my daughter. And it is an awful truth that she's going to fly the nest and go away from me. And it's really sweet. It's like the happiest of all melancholies. So I wrote that in her card. And yeah, I get emotional about that. Think about it. As parents, what do you do for your kids? You teach them how to spread their wings. You teach them to align their flight feathers. You help them build up endurance so they can pump their wings for a long time and travel and go.
Yeah. Also, that's if you're a good parent. But are most parents good parents? I kind of wonder.
Right. But that's like the biggest irony of all, right? You spend the first 18 years teaching your kids all the skills they need so they can leave you. It's what they're supposed to do. But it's a beautiful irony.
Yeah, it's something else. It truly is, because you guys know, it's again no secret, but I went from having responsibility of 0 kids to 5.
Yeah,
like overnight.
Instant family. Just add Joe.
Well,
Joe.
I look at it as a blessing. I'll be honest with you. It's a complete blessing because I went to about the loneliest place you could ever possibly be. And I've always wanted a family. I always wanted a good relationship with my mother and father. I always wanted a good relationship with my siblings. I always wanted to be a father. And as far as love was concerned, they were never lacking in that. But I was lacking in adult. Like you just talked about the kids that didn't realize that school was important. You just talked about the kids that didn't realize that it was important to treat people the way you would want to be treated. Well, I was insecure. We can run through the gamut of the list of character defects that I had. Tons of them. I don't know if it was because they weren't taught to me. I don't know if it was natural, chicken or the egg. I don't know. But that was my story. That's my story. And it took a whole lot of self-help programs and banging my head against a wall and life lessons to learn what was important in life, which was family and friends and country and God and freedom and all the things that I stand for today. But my road wasn't simple. There wasn't homeschooling. There wasn't there wasn't what I would call the right guidance. And so I've learned all those lessons, and I missed 10 years of my son's life. And I did it in a very, very, very lonely way. And now it was like God said, all right, you did the work. You finally figured it out. It sucks that you did it on your own, but here you go. Now you got 5 kids. Go to graduations, take them to school dances, run the sports, and all the things that I missed out on, I get to do today. And it's not easy, but I'm so grateful. And it's so cool to finally be able to have the experience to be involved in a conversation like we're having right now. It really is truly cool. It's
Think about why you're in this place though right now. You were put in the lives of these kids, Joe, maybe for a reason, because the take that you have on what's important in life, maybe that's the thing you're supposed to pass on.
It was very cruelly molded into you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you paid a heavy price. But
John,
maybe because you did, maybe they won't have to.
Yeah, John and I were talking this morning, and one of the topics we hit on very briefly was comfort has no utility.
Right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Pretty deep. Everybody is seeking comfort, but as soon as you get comfortable, you're useless.
I don't want to make this another my personal story, but I want to ask you guys. So a lot of people end up becoming their parents. Is it also normal to become the opposite? Because, like a few main traits, right? My mom was very strict. My dad was fairly absent, but also very strict when he was there, mostly because he was scared of my mom, right? And my mom lied a lot, and I don't believe in that. I think maybe that's why I'm so drawn to this movement, and maybe it's the way that I give my perspective on all the things I see, because I'm looking for the lies. I don't believe everything I'm told. I try to figure out what the truth is. Maybe that is from my upbringing, because when it comes to my son and the other children that are now my kids, I will not lie to them. I just don't. I'm not going to. Here's my past. Here's what I learned. This is why I'm in the position I'm in. Do you want the same results? Because if you do, then by all means, keep acting like an asshole. Or I will help you do the things that I screwed up on. I think that that's the best path from what I've learned, because what I was told growing up was I never smoked weed. I never went to a party. I never made any mistakes. And you're not going to either. And I was like, you're full of it. Because like my buddy just smoked weed and he laughed his ass off. So you're full of crap. So I'm going to try that. I don't believe a word you say. It's just the way I react. I don't know if that's natural and normal, or if it's something maybe that goes with it. It's my experience. So,
You're
Muffled.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard your mic go out, but yeah, you just got muffled.
That's going to piss me off.
No, you're back.
All right. Well, it's funny. It's the last time I was told that was when you guys were on, but I did change the microphone, so we'll see.
Hey, Joe, if you see this reaction again, the rain,
okay. Yeah, that means
that'll mean you're muffled.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we don't have to keep doing this. Let's get into some content instead of making this a whole personal thing.
I just want to say one thing though, that I'm not like my parents in some ways, and because my parents were really strict, and I wasn't like a full-on rebellious kid, but I had my fun. But I had a conversation with my daughter in 8th grade. Right before 8th grade, every year she and I would head west and do a father-daughter road trip, and this was maybe our third one. And so driving from Minnesota to Wyoming, we learned to fly fish together for those 6 or 7 years. And we're at the morning of our second day driving. We just left Rapid City, so she has this huge drink, and I'm driving. And I said, Anna, I got to have this talk with you, and we're going to be talking about like boys and booze and drugs, and. But I've always been really open with her. I just said, look, I've never been the father to a 13-year-old girl before. I don't really know exactly what the right thing to do is. And I'm not sure even how to, even what I'm even going to say. And I said, if you feel uncomfortable right now, multiply that for me, because I really don't know. But we proceeded to talk about stuff. And I just said, look, as far as, like drinking goes, I prefer you didn't, but if you do, don't drive. If you do, don't let it get out of control. And I said, look, I'm not going to be able to, I can tell you, no, you can't do it, but I can't really enforce that. You've got to decide that for yourself. So yeah, I gave her the metaphor that I felt like I was moving beyond being a parent into being more of a mentor. And I just said, look, you're going to have to make mistakes in order to learn. So if you fall down and, split your chin or skin your knee, well, you're going to learn better from that than for me to tell you not to do certain things. And so I said, my goal is to have guardrails as far out as possible, life or death kind of thing. Everything else in between, it's up to you, kid. So I don't know that works with every kid. Anna's always been super mature, but yeah. Well, I kind of ended up, I was that way. I said that specifically because I know that I'm not going to, I know that I can't, if she's at a party and there's drinks there, I'm not there. I can't say no, don't do it. And she's got to make her own choices. And so I guess I just recognized it early on. My parents didn't let me make those choices. And so my freshman year of college, well, I sure made the choices overboard. And yeah, I was happy I pulled out of that. But anyway, I think people live up to the expectations that you put on them. And to some degree, maybe not everybody.
Or they rebel against them.
Yeah, well, that could be. I'm trying to figure out why this. There we go.
That's exactly what I did, Paul.
I think it also changes based on the individual kid that you're talking to. Kids are different. Some kids are really responsible. Some kids just aren't. Mm-hmm. They have different personalities. They have different things they gravitate toward. And you have to treat them individually.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's... I don't care. We've already done 36 minutes on this. We might as well keep going. This is a really cool thing that I don't think either one of you would have had to consider because neither one of you have been in this position. But when you go from having lost 10 years, the first 10 years, my son was 2 when he went to live with my mom. He was 10, he was 12 when he came back to live with me. And I had, as I should have, he was raised by my mother, a carbon copy of myself. And so a carbon copy of myself at 12, right? So at 12, I was a very insecure, soft-mannered, but behind your back sneaky, right? He had all of these traits. And now I'm at this weird place where I didn't get to do all the things I just talked about, which was parent him differently, more honestly, more openly, a little bit harder, a little bit more old school is what I'd like to honestly do, because I learned shortly after the age that he's at that it did take a level of toughness to get through life, right? Like you have to try to win, right? You can't just be a doormat. You certainly can't go out on a lacrosse field, which is our passion. It's still his. It is mine. And you can't go on a lacrosse field and like hit him like this. You got to go out on the lacrosse field and like be strong, right? And he doesn't have that yet. I have hope for him because I gained it through life experience. And now he has my guidance. But it is weird to see this carbon copy of myself at 12, the insecurities and all the things that were instilled into me. And like I didn't have any input yet. And now I have to deal with the 12-year-old version of me with the parenting techniques that I want to use. It's an odd, and he's being very receptive. I got to give the boy credit. He is 100% on board. He understands. We are now going to be getting together twice a week to go over, they have their little laptops now. So we're going to do that because his first year here wasn't as successful as I would have liked it to be. Well, no one was watching back where he came from. Well, now I am. And I gave him the rope to hang himself with the first year. And he progressively got better for 3 quarters and then fell off on the 4th. And so now he's doing summer school. He didn't expect his dad, who he only saw on the weekends, that got to take him to, wherever was fun this time, Six Flags or Hershey Park or wherever. He didn't expect when he got here that his dad was going to no, I don't think so. This is not how this is going to go. So I eased into it, but I got tighter. And then I allowed him to have his fourth quarter himself, and he went backwards. So now we're doing summer school, and now we're going to get together twice a week, and we're going to make sure there was just too many assignments that were turned in late or not turned in. And I was not okay with it. And he got to see who I really am, right? Not abusive, not yet. I didn't even raise my voice, but hand me your phone. Give me. You got a 70-inch TV screen in your bedroom because I spoiled you, right? You showed up and I couldn't. I literally gave him my television. The TV in my room is only like 40 inches, but the TV I had in storage was 70 inches, so it got put in his bedroom. Right? He got the 70-inch TV, he got the Xbox I don't use, he got all the things, and we set up his bedroom beautifully. Well, that's all back in storage right now because we're doing summer school. So he didn't expect all that from me. And we're getting into this finally now that we're a year in. We're starting to learn who each other are, I think, and I'm starting to be able to use my real techniques. And I have high hopes for the next year because, like I said, he's being receptive, but it is quite a process to lose a child for 10 years and then have to go through this. It's blowing my mind, to be honest.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But I mean, Joe, if you're the guy you are right now on camera, that's the guy that's raising your son. That's awesome.
The biggest thing is you care.
Yeah.
I don't want him to go through what I went through for 20 years and lose his kid.
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't, look, besides actually losing your kid, which I saw many parents do because I lived a drug addicted life for just under 20 years or so. I saw many parents lose their kids. Many of my friends passed away. That's the only thing I didn't put my parents through. I don't want him to have to see that or live that. So we got to do something different, right? And I tell him that we got to do something different. You can't just sit here and act like I did. And what you're doing is going to land you exactly where I landed. Do you want to? Are you happy you weren't with your dad for 10 years? Do you want your son to live like that? So those are the tough conversations we have. You know, we haven't gotten into the girls and the drugs further than that yet, but we touch on the drugs enough because of where I come from. It's not a secret.
Wow.
Oof, that got deep. I wasn't expecting that. All right, let me say thank you real quick. Who was it? Karen. Karen actually gifted on the Cash App because we talked about it, I think. Thank you very, very much, Karen. I saw what you did. I threw you a heart back. I appreciate you very, very much. Anybody that's watching on any of the 4 platforms that we're on right now, if you could, I always ask this every show. I usually do it more than once. If you could hit that positive affirmation, we got 29 thumbs up over on Rumble right now. We got 11 or so red pills over on pill.net. YouTube, I can't see you guys, but please hit that thumbs up, follow the channel. And if you're over on X, which there's like 700 people or so right now, please share the show out, hit the like, drop a little dot or a comment underneath the show. I'd be super grateful. I'm trying to decide as we come out of a very deep conversation what direction I go with you guys. I think I'm going to do an in passing one. You guys had some opinions on the Brunson cases, right? We've talked about that before on this show. Mm-hmm. John, did you? Me and Paul talked about it briefly before you got here. Did you see the 3 liberal judges that had to recuse themselves from the case that just happened last week?
Yeah, I did. I don't think that's anything because they were named in that suit, and so I think that's a normal process that they would recuse.
Yeah, they're defendants. Just prima facie, they have to recuse themselves.
Yeah. I didn't take anything big from that. The thing that we were talking about Brunson. So Brunson is both of the cases are kind of retarded in terms of how they're written, but there's a reason that they're there. That's what Paul and I keep thinking. It kind of fits this pattern because either one of those 2 cases would take out the presidential line of succession.
And that would necessarily put the military in control because there's no commander in chief.
Yeah, how you couldn't? You'd have to have the military in a place of being like a protector. like General Maximus would have been in Gladiator. See, there's a theme again.
Essentially the military would have no commander in chief and would have to resort to the law of war and treat the government as a belligerent occupier, essentially, or they would be the belligerent occupier of a controlled territory. It gets really technical, but basically the military would have no choice but to do something to protect the Constitution because they have an oath.
The whole context of us throwing this possibility out there, maybe it won't happen this way, but we think that there's got to be some way for the military to be in control. And
we still believe that, and we still believe, although we don't think it's likely now, we believe that the Brunson cases are a possibility. It would be really strange compared to other possibilities we found, because the reason we retracted that prediction about the Brunson case on my Substack was because since then, John, I think we found 5 different scenarios that would all lead to the same military control without the Supreme Court involved. And so if we can find 5 of them, there may be 20. There may be 100. What are we doing? Just documenting the different technical possibilities of how this could happen? The whole thing is designed so you can't figure out how it's going to happen. So if you can find that many possibilities, just sit back and watch and say, oh, look, they picked that one.
Okay, John, you mentioned it. Paul mentioned it pre-show. Can you guys expand? I don't care who. Or is that my microphone?
Yeah.
That was my microphone?
Yeah, you were kind of going in and out.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I couldn't get there quick enough.
You were way too late. Well, can you guys expound a little bit on the General Maximus idea?
Okay. Yeah, go for it, John.
General Maximus. So a lot of people have said, well, military in control, what would that really look like? And Paul and I would go back and forth on this.
Are you talking about Gaius Maximus in Rome?
What's that?
Are you talking about Gaius Maximus?
No, I wasn't going to go there. I was talking about the Gladiator movie, though. Again, Paul and I look back, we see all this media, and we see these same themes that keep reappearing in just different formats.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. So in the movie Gladiator.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say that this might be a good opportunity to define the language we found. Because so much of what John and I have done in the last year has to do with looking at media. Like, we started with I Pet Goat. We did All Your Bases Belong to Us. We found the My Chemical Romance lyrics, and then it just exploded into Yellow Submarine and every other movie that's been produced. I mean, this messaging is everywhere. And I guess about a week ago, I ran across something, and I found out that method of finding the messages between lots of disparate media and connecting them together is actually called, well, it has 3 names. It's the bird language, it's the green language, and it's the language. The language goes back to ancient Mesopotamia, pre-Egyptian. This is how the really smart people have been communicating for 6,000 years. And that's what we discovered how to do. We didn't know it had a name. And so I did all sorts of reading on the language and the bird language. And essentially what it boils down to is, I'm just going to go there, John.
Go ahead.
If you're feeding a bunch of chickens, how do you feed them? You got some bird seed and you just throw it out there, right?
Yeah.
That is seeding the narrative. That's why it's the bird language. You're feeding the birds. You're tending the chickens. You are a chicken tender, and they are the tendees.
Tendies.
And so all of this metaphor. So remember the whole tendy thing
on the board
on the Q boards on 4chan and 8chan. There was this whole thing about, we just need tendees. Were they talking about the bird language, or were they talking about chicken tenders?
Were they talking about the crumbs that the birds eat?
Yeah,
the chickens eat. We just
throw out crumbs. You see what they're doing? This is the language. This is what the people who run the world have been doing for 6,000 years. They seed the narrative. They're feeding the chickens.
You are Southern Southern Mesopotamia, by the way, that Mama W is asking. There's a huge temple ziggurat that's there right now. Well, there right now. It's been there right now for a long right now.
It's an old building. But yeah, so I just wanted to interject that to explain that that's what we're doing is finding the hidden information in all the seeded narrative. Okay. And so when John's talking about this, I think it's the reference to Gladiator with General Maximus. That narrative isn't just there to make an entertaining movie about gladiators.
Right.
It's telling you a script to what has been going on.
So the part specifically is that one of the senators was saying, somebody was talking to General Maximus, like, wait a minute, so you're going to basically control Rome, and then you're just going to hand Rome back to the people, and you're not going to keep it and be an asshole dictator kind of thing? And he's like, just turn it back in, or turn it back over to the people, which is what we expect would happen. That if there were military intervention, it would be resolved as quickly as possible. I mean,
we should probably give a brief overview of what we expect in the next year. Now, this may not happen. We could be totally wrong.
Mm-hmm. Wait, hold on. Let me clarify what you're about to get into. What you're talking about is, if I think I understand, is what we're going to see, not necessarily what has already potentially happened. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. We believe that, God, how do you even explain this?
Right.
What you're seeing is a show. Q said, enjoy the show 42 or 43 times, probably 42 times, because 42 is significant, but I won't get into that.
Oh, that's deep.
Answer the life universe and everything. There's a reason that the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has 42 in it, and it has to do with the Book of the Dead. Anyway, so which by the way isn't the Book of the Dead, it's the book of how to present yourself in public, but they mistranslated it. Gosh, I wonder why. Anyway, where was I going? This stuff is so deep. So what you're seeing right now is a show for the masses, because you can't herd the entire population of the public and tell them what's actually happening, because A, they won't believe it. B, they will immediately think it's corrupt.
And C, or 3, or whatever system you were using.
Roman numerals.
2, 3.
Binary. 1, 2,
3. The pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, pitchforks and torches would come out, and we'd be living in caves in short order. And so here's the ethical conundrum that we think has been going on for 6,000 years. If you're real smart and you have a lot of power and wealth, and you know what's best for the people, and you can prove it to yourself, to anybody who's competent to understand it, is it ethical to lie to the population so that you can carry out what's best? Because then you have to lie.
This is a big hurdle for people to get over, because
this is probably the biggest.
Yeah, because it's understanding that, there is a small group of people at the top that are controlling humanity. Yep. It will always be so.
Yep, and it's always been so.
It's just going to be it is a different group than what originally started.
So, okay. Well, I've done this before, but I have to do it again because people are going to watch this show that haven't watched before. But, say I were to make a post about this and it got 100,000 views, the comments that I would have to combat are, right? People are dying. Mm-hmm. People are struggling.
Yep.
What about the vaccine? What about the border?
Pitchforks and torches.
What about the kids?
Yeah, they're going to get pitchforks and torches because people aren't going to understand it.
No, and they don't, because look, why Trump can't be in charge? Kids, right?
Yeah.
So how do you if you had to combat those comments, what would you say besides pitchforks and torches? Because I get it, I understand what you guys are saying.
That's the
how do how do you bridge the gap between the people that are
Look at
not necessarily believing CNN, however, are part of this movement and being fed the cartoon narrative?
yeah, look at what parents do with children. Parents lie to their children all the time to keep them safe. They leave things out. They exaggerate things. They say, "Oh no, don't go out by yourself at night. You could get kidnapped," right? Which is a possibility, but really, you just don't want them going next door to Billy's house and burning the house down or something when there's no adults around, right? But if you told them, "No, you're going to go next door and burn the house down," they say, "Oh no, I'm not," and then they'll do something else. So the thing is, deception exists. People communicate with deception all the time. There will be no way to eliminate deception. Deception is always going to be there. But going back to that original question of, if you know what advances humanity and preserves life the best, is it ethical to not do that simply because there are people who won't understand it? And I would say, no, you should do it anyway.
I think a good example of this is, I am of the belief that Pizzagate and the Podesta video, the kid screaming, I think there's more reality in a lot of those things than people will accept. That's why I don't think, I could be wrong, right? I am a Q guy, but I don't think that when Q says children will unite humanity across party lines, that I have a hard time seeing that, because people have a block where they don't want something so evil to be true, so they won't accept it. Whereas, not being able to pay for gas is something they have to accept, right? So it seems to me logically that a financial collapse would bring people together sooner than any type of other
I think
than
we're going
them
to get all of it at
seeing.
the same time. I mean, I think we're going to get all of the reasons at the same time. I think that's what we're building up to.
But if, other than them seeing Hillary Clinton eat a child's face in front of them, in which case I bet most people would still deny it. How do you, okay.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's most or not. I just don't know what the ratio is. The thing is, I'm not convinced that such a video actually exists.
Right.
Okay. And that's part of the issue.
Even if I saw such a video with all the deep fakery that's going on, how could you know if it was real?
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, so we don't know what's real. We don't know the news that we're getting right now. We don't know if it's real. If they've deceived us, and most Anons believe the news has been deceptive for a long time. So then why
they'll still refer to the news as proof of their belief?
Right. So we don't. I mean, WikiLeaks. Well, WikiLeaks could all be curated. We don't know. Did Pizzagate really happen? Was John Podesta yelling at a kid, or was it an actor? I don't know. I'm not saying it was false. So I don't need the brick.
Yeah, we don't know.
But
if you're going to be honest, you have to say you don't know.
Yes. And they talk about what 400,000 kids go missing every year. Why are we not seeing multiple Amber Alerts, 1,000 a day?
Well, the reason is because the whole Amber Alert system is corrupt.
Yeah, right.
But there's another possibility, and I'm not saying I know this. The other possibility is that these things are being exaggerated intentionally to get people upset about it, because they're being fed a narrative to cause a certain outcome.
Yep.
They're getting a seeded narrative.
Doesn't mean it's all false.
Right.
We don't know what proportion of, is it really 400,000 kids a year, or is it 50? I mean, even if it's 50, that's not a small number, right? 50,000. Right. But what I'm saying is that what Paul just said is perfect. Whatever real information is out there, it's very likely inflated and exaggerated to get people emotionally charged.
Or reduced. Yeah. Everything is going to be distorted to cause whatever outcome the people in power want to have happen. And because there's deception involved, the average person on the street assumes that the deception must be evil, because that's the only reason you lie.
Right.
What if that's not true? What if the reason you lie is because if you left governance up to the average person on the street, we'd all be living in caves?
So the kid thing came up. That's a great question. I don't have the answer for it, to be honest with you. I'm looking for something specifically right here because I think it'll be. You guys are like history gurus as far as I'm concerned.
John is. I don't claim to be, but John is.
Well, and
World War II, I'm pretty good, but
you're talking about narrative seeding, and there's something I came across recently that I did not know about. Here it is. All right, I found it, and I'm glad I found it. So, did you guys know about this seed in the history of America? Because I was not aware. Check this out.
Is there supposed to be audio?
Is there not?
No.
Hold on. We're going to try it again. Bear with me. So, that's not what I want either.
Song Babes, Angel Poop Guru. We're the shit gurus.
We should have audio. Oh, here we go.
Angel Poop.
All right. Tell me if it works this time. So, I'll start it over. Hopefully the audio works. Let me know if it doesn't.
19th and early 20th centuries, a unique social experiment unfolded across the United States, one that saw thousands of orphaned and homeless children transported from crowded coastal cities to the rural Midwest. This was the era of the orphan trains. This unusual chapter in American history began in the 1850s, a time of immense urban poverty and a burgeoning population of destitute children in cities like New York. A young minister named Charles Loring Brace, founder of the Children's Aid Society, was the driving force behind the movement. Along with similar organizations like the New York Foundling Hospital, they aimed to give these children a chance at a better life. However, the orphan train movement was not without its critics and controversies. Conspiracy theories of the time hinted at ulterior motives behind the movement, ranging from child labor exploitation to more sinister forms of control. These theories were fueled by real instances of abuse and neglect that some children faced. Due to a lack of proper oversight and regulation, some children ended up in situations akin to indentured servitude, subjected to hard labor and harsh conditions.
Where did these kids
the orphan
go?
train movement had a notable presence at the world fairs of the time, particularly the Chicago World's Fair of 1893. These fairs were a celebration of innovation and progress, and the orphan trains were presented as a progressive solution to social issues. However, this public display also led to scrutiny and criticism as ethical questions arose about the treatment of these vulnerable children. A parallel spectacle at these fairs was the display of incubator babies. These prematurely born infants were showcased in state-of-the-art incubators, drawing massive crowds. This too raised ethical questions about the commodification of vulnerable lives. The auctions of orphan train children, where they were presented to potential foster families, bore an uncomfortable resemblance to the spectacle of the incubator babies. The media played a crucial role in shaping the narrative of the orphan train movement. Newspapers of the time varied in their portrayal, with some praising the humanitarian effort, while others highlighted the abuses and failures. Today, these historical sources provide invaluable insights into the perceptions and discourses of the time. In conclusion, the orphan train movement, despite its narrative of altruism, is a complex and controversial chapter in American history. From its origins in the urban poverty of the 1850s, through its controversies and connections to the world fairs, to its portrayal in the media, it provides a fascinating glimpse into a unique period of American history.
I must have missed a part of my indoctrination camp where they didn't tell us anything about that.
Well, I would also caution and remind everybody that the rich people who run the world have been doing it for 6,000 years, and they owned all of the newspapers and publishers at that time. It would be trivial for them to have synthesized that entire thing. Now, I'm not saying it is synthetic. What I'm saying is be careful what you think is source material.
Yep.
Because if this is part of a larger narrative,
question, I actually completely agree with you. My question I would pose for you two is, where did all the psych wards and orphanages go?
Well, Reagan shut down all the psych wards in the 80s, 1980s.
Which also could have been a tool the same way they use the jail system today. It's just interesting to consider. But what we're watching is exactly what you guys are talking about. Seeds being laid for us by a small group of people that are running the world.
Generations in advance.
Yep.
These people think on multi-hundred-year time frames. They're like John and I are, and this will just to freak people out, as as if we're not weird enough to begin with. We think the overall goal of what's going on is to get us to other star systems, to colonize and industrialize other star systems, because we think the biggest threat to humanity is that the human species is extincted by a near star passage to the solar system, which screws up our orbits.
You just pissed off all the flurfers, bro.
We pissed off the flurfers.
I don't care.
Sorry. Not sorry.
You want me to piss them off more? The Earth's not flat.
All right. You want to talk about narrative seeding? I got another one for you. It just happens to be right below the one that I found, so I want to show you guys. Did you guys see this? This is all right. Let me tell you what this is. This is a real American startup company that has a legitimate website and is acting as if this is a real possibility. I don't necessarily buy it. I'm going to say that before I show you guys, but check this crap out. Oh, did you guys see this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got to hear what you think.
Introducing Brain Bridge, the world's first revolutionary concept for a head transplant machine, which uses state-of-the-art robotics and artificial intelligence to conduct complete head and face transplantation.
You would have to sever the spinal cord.
Outcomes and
there's no way they're doing that.
Because head transplants require high speed, precision, and efficiency. Brain Bridge
But you know what? There's thousands of people with money that are trying to invest in this because they think it's going to be the next new thing.
So they're just collecting money?
Yep.
You don't think these freaks are trying?
Yeah, if you're dumb, they'll take your money. And it's ethical to do so, by the way.
From their current diseased body and attaching it to the body of a healthy.
Here's how it's ethical to take money from stupid people. Okay? If you're really smart and someone else is really stupid, how do you prove that you're the one who should run the world? You need a test. Okay? So if I can trick you out of your money, then we just proved that I'm more capable of running the world, and I now have the money to run the world with. Voila.
You guys have touched on this before. So basically, the trick is that smart people collect all the money, and you're retarded for giving it to us.
Right. Yep. And you just proved that you're not competent to run the world. So screw off. Anybody's free to not invest in a company that is just claiming dumb shit like this. I mean, you just have to do a little bit of research and say, yeah, not only that, what a bad idea. Who wants to switch heads?
I wouldn't mind switching bodies.
Ugh.
Once in a while.
I'm okay with my body.
Really funny.
Don't lose your head.
I'm not saying I'm not okay with my body. I'm just saying, like, if I get old enough and I own the planet and I have all the money, why wouldn't I? Look, what the Simpsons have done it. Everybody's done it. You put your head on a new body, you keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, and great. If somebody can actually do that and make a valid business out of it, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. I actually saw this, a week ago or something, and I just laughed.
Yeah, it really is funny. Let's watch the rest of it while I pull up. I want to pull up something you guys sent me pre-show. I'm gonna let this play out. Go ahead.
Joe, very quickly. There are probably millions of people in the world. There's about 7 billion people or 8 billion, depending on what numbers you go by. There are probably millions of people in the world who saw this video and absolutely believe it's true and are running around telling them their friends that it's true.
I'm going to go with about 90% of people that saw this believe it to be real. I'm going on that, honestly, through my comments.
That should terrify everyone.
Yeah.
Those are the people who are voting.
Yeah. I posted this, and 9 out of 10 comments said, OMG, the devil runs the world. And 1 out of 10 said, they're severing spinal cords. This is not possible. I literally, just so everybody knows, just so you're aware, if you follow my Twitter, I use it as a temperature gauge all the time, right? Most stuff that I post, I believe to be true. A lot of times, especially if I put up what's it called, a poll, I'm asking questions that most people already know what my answer is, right? But I'm not putting it up because I want clicks. I don't care. The account's got 143,000. It's already getting clicks. I don't give a shit about clicks. I'm asking because I'm trying to see where the movement stands. Typically, for research for whatever show might be coming, I do it all the time. Once a week, twice a week, or once every month, or whatever. I'll put a poll up because I want to see how everybody feels, where their heads are at. Because collectively, that's how they're dealing with us. So why wouldn't I want to know collectively how everyone's feeling before I go in a direction and try to do what I believe in, and that is a free thought process and unity, accepting one another. Those types of morals, I think, are imperative to this movement. So that's why, and even when it's a post like this, I do watch and pay attention to how people answer. And if I don't like your answer, I typically just tell you to go make a sandwich or whatever. I think it's funny. But after this, just so everyone knows, there is something really cool coming. So what I want to pull up next after we watch the rest of this clip, which is a couple minutes, I want to get into that that thread that you guys sent from our friend. If we could, we can go right through that. And I want to hear your guys' breakdown, if you don't mind, if that's cool. All right, let's watch the rest of this clown show.
Individuals with severe medical conditions such as terminal cancer, paralysis, spinal cord injuries, or neurodegenerative diseases, the opportunity to have a fully functional body while preserving their memory and cognitive abilities.
It's so easy.
They're the longest lasting functional cells in the human body. And according to our estimates, the brain is capable of lasting several hundred years, provided that the rest of the body remains.
According to our estimates.
Concept involves the use of the integrated robotics platform.
Anybody who invests in this should have their head examined.
Robots designed to perform simultaneous surgeries on two bodies.
Look at all those useless lights
within a single setup.
Why did they make the robot have human fingers?
Allows for the surgery to be performed in an environment.
This is an IQ test.
The robots have hands.
The donor and recipient bodies.
What are the hands for?
To slap them.
Organs while the recipient is the patient whose head.
The hands are useless. That's so hilarious.
This is like straight out of Forepog. They said people aren't going to believe this, and they said, "Hold my beer."
And the donor. Both patients undergo tracheotomy with a tube inserted into the trachea to provide respiratory support. And
this is also just kind of fear shock porn.
Proprietary
make
is administered to both
gullible people flip the fuck out.
Sorry, there's a real website.
Oxygenated,
oh, I know. Yeah, I'm sure.
Safe operation.
This is how you see the narrative.
The recipient's head and the donor body are cooled to approximately 5 degrees Celsius.
Who's going to donate their body?
Okay, hold on. That's a great point, right? So let's play with this being real for 1 second. And if anybody has a logically thinking brain, they will understand that the only people that are going to be able to afford to take their head and face and put it on someone else are going to be the elites, right? So who's the victim? So whose body do we use? Well, it's either that we are watching the movie The Island and we're going to clone a bunch of ourselves and keep them in cages until we need their bodies, or you and I are going to get our heads chopped off.
Here's another way to look at it. If you have a wart and you go to a dermatologist, there's no convenient way to get rid of the wart. You can do it, but it's a pain in the ass and it takes forever and you got to burn it off or freeze it off or whatever. But you can have your head changed.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So funny.
It's kind of like that movie. One of the Key and Peele guys did Get Out, right? Except the personalities were put into the bodies. Wasn't that what it was? Anyway. Yeah. So what? You're going to like convince somebody, hey man, you're really fit and you're young and your liver's good and your heart's good. I want your body. Literally, I want your body.
Yeah. How much? I'll give you 100 G's.
Put your head on my body. You can have it like another year or two.
Yeah.
Trade bodies.
So, also, coming out of the tech industries, like you look at the amount of stuff that would have had to have been developed to do this, and you would have cured all human ailments by the time you got this thing developed.
Oh, there's medbed.
It's just absurd on its face.
It is. It is. Let's listen to just a couple more minutes of absurdity, and then we'll go to the thread.
You're doing this on purpose.
Systems. BrainBridge carefully separates the heads from the two
BrainBridge.
bodies with the help of a specialized surgical technique that preserves the spinal cord and key blood vessels. Deep incisions are carefully made around the neck.
How do you
to
decide
expose
what
the
blood
necessary
vessels are
structures,
key?
including the carotid and vertebral.
All of them.
They're all key.
With the help of specialized AI,
Look at what are all the white lines for?
which tracks both muscles and nerves.
Oh, the hands are doing the scalpel.
Less reattachment.
Oh God,
Made in the trachea, esophagus, veins, and arteries
this is so bad.
that completely drain from the recipient's
Oh my God,
What?
that's
The
horrible.
recipient's head is then positioned to
Yeah, it's shock porn.
the body using a mobile platform. BrainBridge immediately connects the detached head to the
Immediately.
circulatory system of the donor body
There's the white lasers again.
during the rest of the procedure. It also re-warms the recipient's head and provides it with oxygenated blood. With the help of its ultra-precision surgical instruments, BrainBridge begins reconnecting
Fingers.
the spinal cord, esophagus, trachea, nerves,
This is an IQ test.
and other tissues. This step facilitates communication between the brain and the new body.
Oh
The
my
machine
God.
utilizes microsurgery techniques and delicate microscopic adjustments to ensure the proper alignment and fusion of the spinal cord and other tissues. To help reconnect the severed
Dude,
neurons,
Dr. Craig will
BrainBridge
make a
uses
killing from guys with new
proprietary
heads
chemical
because they'll have to realign their
adhesive
backs like
polyethylene glycol,
once a
which is
week.
applied locally to the spine,
Yeah.
the point of fusion.
See, this is why
Is connected
you can't tell people what's actually happening,
epidural space,
because there are people who will believe anything.
the point of fusion.
Yeah, okay, that right there. Hold on, I don't want to back up. I'm gonna end this after this, but veins don't line up. Like
No,
we can all put our hands out on a very hydrated, hot day, the three of us, and none of our veins will be in the same place.
Yeah, that and 1,000 other reasons this video is just comedy. I mean, it's
Ghost Rider said my
but see, the
head should
problem,
be
Joe,
rejected.
is you said it. People believe this is real and they're passing it around to each other.
9 out of 10. I'm gonna straight up tell you 9 out of 10 people.
Yeah, that should tell you those people aren't competent to decide what other people should do with their lives.
I'm gonna tell you 6 out of 10 think the world's flat in our movement.
No, I don't think it's that high.
Yeah, I don't believe it's that high either. I think
at
it's
least
being made to appear that high.
The CIA might be in charge of the election, but 51%. I'm gonna
Yeah,
tell you right now. And I'll be completely honest with you guys. I've looked deeply into both sides. They're both intriguing. I am not
Yep.
sitting here taking a side.
Yeah, but
I stand
where are you
right there
looking,
in the
Joe?
middle.
Where are you looking? Online?
I'm aware of what you guys believe. I'm aware of the advice you would give me if we were to have this conversation. I am well aware. I know what you believe. We've talked briefly about this multiple times.
Right.
I understand why people that believe it is all I'm saying.
Right. No, I do too. I just think that when people don't realize that almost all of their information comes in through the internet.
Yes.
And if you have enough power, you can make every individual believe what you want them to believe by showing them what you want them to see through the internet.
You can
It's
seed
good.
it on multiple levels so that people that go to certain websites and believe certain things and maybe are able to comprehend things, they get the information in a manner that makes sense to them. And all the other strata get the same thing.
So people who hate Trump get a lot of feedback that shows them that everybody else hates Trump too. People who love Trump get a lot of feedback that everybody else loves Trump too. How many people love Trump? You can't tell.
And I'm gonna go with how many people you think if we had elections and every single person in the country voted, every one of them above, let's say 16th. How many people you think? How much you think Trump wins by?
What do you think, John? I'd say 90+%.
I was going to say 90.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, why do I say that? Because I'm not judging based on what I see on the internet by myself. I'm judging on the larger patterns for the last 100, 150 years. They need a hero figure to save the world, because that's what people will understand. Trump is clearly that character. And so everything you see in the mainstream media is saying, oh, Trump's up to 53% and then Biden's only getting 42%. So Trump's ahead. Oh, but I think that the number's actually really high for Trump. And this is all just part of the show, because everybody needs to feel like we came that close to total annihilation.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with you. I think that we are, and I think that, I know that Q knows that. But when Q talks about we're the majority, they're the minority, when they talk about 4 to 6%, if you take it all into consideration, Q is more than aware of how much we outnumber.
Yeah.
And when I say we, I don't even mean to make it about a movement. Humanity, right now, collectively, sits on the side of, call it what you want, conservatism, good over evil. I think that inherently most people are good-natured, right? I don't think people always make the right decisions. I think that there is influence by the devil and all the things, but inherently by nature, humans typically are. That's why when you're swiping through one of whatever app it might be, YouTube Shorts or whatever, and you come across the guy that's going to give a bunch of money to an orphanage in Africa, or it almost makes you well up. Like, it makes you inherently, we are good inside. I believe we are. Yeah. I almost aren't really sure the people at the top that are evil are human.
Well, go find a 6-month-old baby that's evil.
There isn't one.
Yeah. People learn to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the truth.
And even going back to something I said earlier, if you really get to understand the way the people in control of the world think, they don't think in terms of good and bad. They think in terms of life and death. They know life is good, therefore death is bad, and preserving life is their prime directive.
Yep.
And so if you have to do bad things to get a better outcome, then you do bad things, because you get a better outcome. Because the object is to get a better outcome, not to be good or bad.
I think you're right.
And most of the time you can do good things to get a good outcome, but sometimes doing a really bad thing is the way to get a better outcome. And so in the current situation we find ourselves in, we're being shown that the whole world is, I believe, far worse than the world would have ever gotten naturally, in order to get people to change their thinking so that you can get the people to demand a way to fix all the crime. And the way that will be shown to do that is mass surveillance.
Yep.
Let me do it before we get into Leon Larger.
I love that guy.
I know.
Leon's getting larger.
Yes. Look up the meaning of the name Leon, by the way.
Do you think? Look, this is
we're not wrong.
No.
This is as close as I'll ever get. Okay. I hope he's watching when I say this. You think we'll ever be able to tell the truth?
Deception exists. Most people tell the truth about most things, but then everybody tells little lies all the time.
Do you think the world will become free enough that we can speak openly about who each other are?
Much more so than has ever been possible in human history. Yep. This is the biggest change, I believe, that will ever happen to humanity. And if there's a bigger change in the future, it's no longer what we see as humanity.
Yep. Yeah, because just to give the most brief possible explanation as to why I said that, there's many, many, many people fighting within this movement that still have to live in a way where they can't take credit for everything they've done to save humanity. And there's many of them, many, many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I asked the question, because someday it would be awesome to just, all of us just, strip down and run around naked. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
I think that's coming to some extent.
Yeah.
I predicted for a long time that you'll be able to buy cocaine, pure cocaine, at a pharmacy.
Dude, I want to high five people that did things for this movement that we can't yet acknowledge, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Some
Well, I mean,
people-
how many people had to play the part for their life as an absolute horrible psychopathic killer in order to get into a position to take out a network of killers? That would be doing something bad in order to accomplish a better outcome, correct?
Yep.
And if it's worth doing, it's worth doing.
It actually makes more sense when people did it like behind the scenes in like a military fashion or, you know, covert operation type of fashion. It's a little bit more difficult, at least for me, to grasp when it's done for the public and for the masses, and it still has to be run as if it's a covert operation. Does that make sense?
The masses won't believe you if you told them what you were trying to do. The pitchforks and torches come out and they kill the people trying to help them.
The masses, if it came out, if all the truth came out about all the stuff that the good guys did to get to this point, to force the change, there would be
kill the wrong people.
Massive revolt. Massive revolt.
Massive damage to humanity.
Let me give you an example that I don't care. I'm going to say this one, but let me give you an example that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I might hurt somebody's feelings. I might piss people off when I say this. I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'm going to use it for an example. No, Joe M's on Twitter. No one knows.
I've been watching him.
So have I. Joe M is on Twitter, and nobody, the masses are not aware.
Yeah. The masses aren't aware of most things.
Right.
I mean, John, we should really
we call them seagrass.
Yeah,
like
they just go whichever way.
Yeah, if you're a diver and you've ever seen, you know, a bed of seagrass, it just sways with the current.
They do whatever everybody else is doing, and they all turn it into a dramatic shit show. Because it's like, oh, did you hear? They're changing heads now.
But do you realize what will happen the celebration that will be had?
Oh, I know.
That person said, "Here I am."
Trump,
right? All right, let me take a second.
So Joe, before the end of this, can we dump this 2001 stuff? Oh, we lost John.
To be honest, guys, if you want to go all the way till, say, what we start 1-3, I can go all the way to 3:30, 4 o'clock if you guys wanted to.
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's complete. You guys are the guests.
There he is.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to grab a quick call. Came in. I had to grab.
I might have to tell the kids to shut up, but if you guys want to go for another half hour to an hour, I'd be down.
Okay. Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
cool.
I just think this stuff I dug up this morning is just so mind bending, and it confirms what John and I have said before so clearly that it'll explode people's heads.
I don't know. I honestly don't know if we can tell it in a way like I understood it as soon as we talked that we were talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. But there's a lot of background stuff.
Well, look at it this way. I mean, thousands of people are going to see this, right? If a small percentage of those people are diligent enough to actually look into what we say, then they'll find the same thing we're finding. And for the rest of the people who aren't willing to dig for it, well, you're not going to know what's going on. And that's pretty much the whole story of this whole thing is the truth is there for people who have eyes to see, but it takes effort. You have to want to know, and you have to actually go out and figure it out. Don't trust us.
Oh, somebody couldn't understand me. I said Joe M. All right. Let me take a second. Let's take a second. We'll go through Leon Larger's thread, and then we'll do exactly what you want to talk about. Paul, if you want.
Yeah, sure.
This, by the way, is a great thread.
I know, and it's why I want to go through it. And I'll read, and you guys will do it like we did your Substack. You can break in at any point in time. We can do commentary. I want to say thank you to all the people that have been supporting over here that I haven't yet, due to conversation, been able to acknowledge. I think we're good on Rumble, but there's been a whole lot on Pill. And you guys are absolutely awesome. So Ghost Rider gifted a can. Ghost Rider, absolutely love that dude. He's been hanging out with me and a whole bunch of other people I care about for a very long time now. Tennessee Jed 78 gifted a phone. Bong Hall Everybody should go listen to Bong Hall. He's your favorite stoner. That dude is absolutely hysterical. If you are a wake and bake type of dude, or even if you just find it entertaining, his show is awesome. That dude is nothing but laughs. Absolutely love him. He's been on here before. And Texan Patriot Girl gifted a phone. Hello, been watching on Rumble. Thank you for coming over to Build, the new platform. We are looking at 20 red pills. There's 18 people over there watching live right now. If you guys haven't taken the red pill, please do so. I appreciate you. And over on Rumble, I think we're up above, I don't know, 55, 56 thumbs up on Rumble. If you guys could, you're watching the show, click out of the live chat for just a second, hit the thumbs up. YouTube, same deal. And if you're over on X, know that these 3 platforms are active. The chats are active. It's where everybody hangs out and talks. Although I can see your chats come right up on the screen on StreamYard, which is what I use to stream. So I appreciate you no matter what. Share the show out. Let your friends know that we're hanging out and having a good time. Sometimes it's exhausting, but it's important to let everybody know.
Hey, Rambo, do you have Joe M's Twitter handle? People in the chat are asking.
I'm not telling. No. I went, look, if Joe, this was my point. If and when Joe M wants everyone to know that he's on Twitter, he will tell them himself. But I don't think that it's a complete secret that he's there. So I don't mind saying that. But I will tell you guys that it's not the account that says Joe M. It's not the general Joe M. That is a fake account. That is not Joe M. His name is not Joe M. And when Joe M's ready to tell everybody, he will. I hope and pray he does, because I think it will be a glorious day. I have used his videos personally for hope. I have used it for educational purposes. I have put them out there ad nauseum because I think the work he did was imperative. If we're going to go over Joe M's whole story, the way I understand it is Joe M made a promise that if something didn't happen by a certain time, he was going to leave social media. And the man kept his damn word. And that is why you don't know who Joe M is right now. And it's not my story to tell. That's Joe M's story. I went as far as I'm willing to go. I hope it doesn't piss him off because he's a legend. I look up to him. I hope someday that he'll come sit with me on the show and we can all talk. But until that day, that's up to him. Joe M was just an example as to something I was talking about previously. That dude is fire. The work that he did in this movement is second to just about none.
He's a really good video editor.
Yeah, I will not tell anybody who he is right now. Nope. But if you search, if you scour X, he's there. Just gonna tell you. You won't find him though. All right.
By the way, John is gone probably because he actually runs a business and he's probably got some crisis going on.
Yeah.
Some
he's looking for Joe M on Twitter right now. All right. Let's dive into Leon Larger, Burned Spy 360. Let's start diving into this. There he is.
Sorry, my daughter called. I had to take it.
Oh, that wasn't business at all. All right, so yeah, let's go through this thread, one section here at a time. So, Leon Larger at Burned Spy 360. Number 1, trust the plan. One of the more ridiculous comments I hear is that all those who trust the plan, in quotes, are doing nothing. To be fair, there may be some people that fit this accusation, but the vast majority of the researchers do not. Most are incredibly hardworking patriots. I would like to put all 3 of us, Feisty Cat, SSG, anyone that you're seeing on this show, in this category, although we're accused of this all the time, right? So number 2, the vast majority of researchers who have dedicated thousands of hours for free over the last 7 years are not sitting on their asses today doing nothing. Indeed, such an accusation denigrates what they've done for humanity in kicking this awakening into gear.
Yeah, I would like to say that Leon Larger is one of the guys at the top of this category. That guy has done so much stuff that people don't realize. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for making my point.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment, John, before we go on?
I would just say that this thread is so important because the people that are saying, well, you trust the plans, you're not doing anything. They're breathlessly emotional. I mean, they're emotional thinking. So we got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fucking what?
Oh, F-bomb.
On purpose. That one.
Thank you, Braves Piano, for the
profanity
cookie.
is useful.
See you.
Profanity can be very useful because it can increase the impact of what you're saying. So, but I hear these people saying, "Well, we got to do something. Our country is completely broken, totally broken. We got to." Okay, what do you want to? Let's slow down, take a breath. What are you going to do? You know, march in Washington like with weapons? Because that's stupid.
Good point.
I mean, the plan is, from where I sit, the plan is mostly about waking people up and moving people in a certain direction. That is what it is.
Changing people's thinking.
Because most things are beyond people's control. Local action, Flynn says this all the time, local action is national impact, but you can only control the things that are close to you, that are within your sphere.
Right.
Okay, so do that. If that means that you're a full-time mom and you're raising your kids, awesome. That is what you're doing. That is your calling. That is your job. If you have the time and the inclination to run for an office, to run for even a local commissioner job, great. We need those people. If you decide to join the school board, even better. You do what you can. And just because somebody is saying, well, I know I trust the plan, doesn't mean that they're not joining a city council or raising patriots.
It doesn't even have to be government. I mean, learn a new profession and go into a profession that you think is more important than the profession you're in. I mean, put any kind of pressure toward the future that you can.
I couldn't agree more. I was trying to pull up a Joanne video. Maybe we'll show one of those before we leave. Let me keep reading here. So, number 3, such accusations are frankly insulting to these patriots who took the early lead on some very ugly research topics and cracked open Pandora's box. I know many of them, and they are warriors. He's right. They are making documentaries, creating alt media shows, doing deep research, training their kids, sitting on councils, and schooling their school boards. They are truly influencers in their spheres of influence. Some drive for days on end to support anti-trafficking movements. I'm instantly thinking QAG, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Promote movies or simply encourage. QAG literally runs an aggregator board. And that's the person I think of when he says promoting movies or simply encourage and pray for other patriots. Number 5, these patriots are happy to forsake all their own comforts for the sake of fighting for transparency, freedom, and safety of children. These Anons are some of the most active patriots I've ever seen. I say it all the time. That statement holds more water than just about any Q-tard or dumb insult that we get.
Yep.
It's absolutely true. You guys are sitting here with me for free. I can literally text you guys at any point in time and say, hey, do you guys want to do a show? I got an opening. It's been a while since I talked to you. What are you guys working on? And these two show up in the middle of a workday and jump right on and hang out with all of us. And you're not the only one. Same thing with Feisty. Same thing with SSG. Same thing with everybody that comes on the show. And people, I don't think necessarily realize that you're literally taking time out of your day to share research that you've already worked tirelessly on so that we can all have the discussion to move the goalposts in a positive way. You're right. This thread is imperative. 6, I consider these patriots to be family. I love them from a very deep place, a place that is unusual, like it was forged in some kind of ancient battle. Our bond is instant. I'm getting chills. They are honest, transparent, and generous, with the resources they have, be it money, time, giftedness. Well, you know who I think of when you bring that up. It's you, JFAnon.
Thank you.
While I can't speak on their behalf, I'd say most of them actually do trust in some kind of military plan, chugging quietly away in the background, but they also understand that any counterinsurgency will eventually have to engage the people, military-civilian alliance. These patriots don't trust the plan and do nothing. Rather, they see the plan and engage with the counterinsurgency that is inviting all of our participation. In this context, the accusations against their views can be ignored because they are at work where they influence. Freaking brilliant. None of us were granted the jurisdiction to go into space and disarm the rods of God. However, we can impact our local community in numerous ways. We can affect our school boards. We can all influence the conversations at a local bar. We all have dinner with friends. To be sure, excuse me, there has been an invisible war in the background, but it is being waged on our unconscious mind, away from our conscious awareness. There are things being brought to light that are unimaginable, unbelievable. These are hard truths for us all. A war of the mind will not be won in our collective consciousness until we all engage. Only then will we walk in freedom and enter the next phase of our expansion. I suspect this is why Q said, "Where we go one, we go all." We are not there yet, but we are well advanced in our journey. And go ahead, guys. Do you want to have comments on that? It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think the reason why, like I know Leon, we all do, and he's an incredibly gifted researcher. He's a gifted communicator. Let's look at that thread. What he said was in reaction to, I think it might have been a Zoom call I was on with about 20 people. And we had a couple people that came in and were excoriating us for trusting the plan.
Yeah, I was there.
Yep. And my take on the whole thing was, they were doing it for the right reasons, I think, in their heart, that's why they reacted the way they did. But they did it out of being emotional and not sitting back going, okay, let's be rational. And when I say emotional, I don't mean like that typical insult thing where people go, oh, you're just being too emotional. No, emotionality precludes and prevents rational thinking. It prevents good decision making, or it certainly impacts it. So if you can sit back and not be emotional, I mean, we've talked about this with you, Joe, a bunch, where if I say something like this, I'm going to say something, and people that are viewing, you're going to hear this and ask yourself if you're feeling an emotional pull one way or the other. What if Hillary Clinton has been acting her entire life and she's a white hat and she's been tasked to act like a black hat her entire life? What if none of the stories are true about her? Do you feel an emotional tug to say, no way, I know she's bad?
Of course they do.
That's the issue. I'm not saying for sure that that's it, but that is a possibility.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know anything. Yet we think we know. We think we know who the white hats are, and we think we know who the black hats are.
Yeah, but very few people are saying, I don't know, but this is what it looks like.
Right.
And when you actually come at that, like John and I have been doing this for more than a year, we came at it completely rationally, completely with no bias toward anything, and we considered all possibilities. Very, very few people are going to do that. That's why very few people can understand what's actually going on, is because the possibilities are outside of the normal envelope of what people want to believe. And it's that way on purpose. That's yet another ring of hell to get your head around. There's multiple layers to these deceptions. So,
think about why General Flynn said in the book about fifth generation warfare, it has everything to do with controlling people's emotions. You get people emotionally charged and you can push them in certain directions.
Yeah.
And
been done for thousands of years. That's how they create war.
Before we move on, I want to this is what, respectfully, I don't ever say anything to hurt anybody's feelings, right? That's why the normie comment's probably not a good title for people, because it can be taken in a derogatory way. But let me push back on what would be the collective ideals within the movement, right? So not even within the movement. Let's talk about all society for a second. Donald Trump just went to court. There was a real judge involved. There was real lawyers involved. It was really on your TV. Everyone's really being told about how could this possibly, how could Hunter Biden just went to court with his mommy, right? Spy balloons, the fires, the kids, the border, right? There's all these, again, the same pot button talking points.
Mhm.
How could this all? How could there? What level's truth and what's not? Right. This is what people struggle with. Why is gas so much? Why is everyone? People are dying. Right. People are dying. We're struggling. People are dying. So what do you say to them when you get into the weeds this much, which I believe to be way closer to reality than what the television is telling us? Right. I'm not going to sit here and say you guys are 100% right. Right. These are theories. These are things that we discuss.
Mhm.
But I tend to believe you are closer to reality by far than what the TV is telling us. So how do you explain that? Or do you just not? Do you let them go through their process?
I think you got to let them go through their process, but I mean, certainly the reason I brought up the emotionality part of it is because there might be a few people that suddenly go, wait a minute, yeah, like here's the story. So Paul calls me on like a Saturday morning, and he said, "All right, you ready for this? What if Hillary Clinton's a white hat?" I've told this a bunch. I said, "No, there's no way. There is no way. No way she's a white hat." And you
like
know,
a year ago.
Yeah, it was like a year ago. Yeah. And I remember we finished our conversation, and like 5 minutes later.
Now it's another 5 minutes.
Yeah, now it's 5 minutes. It was like 8 hours originally. I don't know. It was a while.
A day and a half.
Was it really a day and a half?
Yeah, it was a day and a half.
Was it really?
Yeah. That's
No.
I think why you started using it as an example, because it took more than a day for you to go, oh shit.
It was, yeah. We didn't talk about that the next time we had a conversation, but a day and a half later, I'm like, our third conversation, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I see that. And what I'd realized is that I had this emotional need to hold on to that narrative. Like I just wanted to hate her. Well, gee, maybe that's a sign that I'm being emotionally manipulated by the information. But I had this need I really wanted to hate her, and I really wanted to hate Obama, and I really wanted to hate Bill Clinton, and I really want to hate John McCain. Name.
All the bad guys, all the people that we think have been put there for everybody to hate.
And Klaus Schwab and George Soros and the Rothschild.
Sam Brinton.
Huma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Podesta.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, possibly. We don't know. But possibly.
We'll never know. That's the thing. We will never know. I don't think they'll ever reveal that.
When you look at the multi-hundred-year grand patterns of all this stuff,
yep,
it fits perfectly that almost everything that's being shown to the people is a show.
I can accept Epstein. I can accept Epstein. I've come to that conclusion. I can accept Obama. I think from talking to you guys, I've accepted that Obama has been used to further this plan.
Mm-hmm.
I have accepted that Epstein, I don't believe he's dead, is being used as either bait or when does a bird sing? I don't know what it is, but I don't believe that he died at all, let alone in that jail cell when the cops weren't looking and the cameras were off. And so if I can come to believe some of those things, I think it opens up the thought process that it's possible what you guys are talking about. It's possible.
Well,
it is hard.
Let me point something out that was the thing in my head a couple of years. Well, I've been doing this for maybe 15 years total, 16, 17, about 10 years before Q popped up. So what is that? 16, 17 years. 17 years. Ooh, Paul's part of Q. No, I'm not. The thing that always got me is I knew, I was a multinational business owner with a business that I had founded, right? I had overseas offices and shit. I knew how the world worked and I knew how business worked and I did it all the time. But there's a certain level of income. Like when you get up to be a multi-billionaire, how did those guys make decisions? How come they always win? Right? How does the world work at that level? So there's like, you can have a really good understanding of how you think the world works, but then there's just like this opaque darkness once you get up high enough. And I think probably all of your viewers, maybe with some few exceptions, have no idea how how do you protect your wealth? What do you stick it in a bank? Do you have a big vault? Nobody knows, right? So there's this level of power that you can get to, allegedly, where you do things that the rest of the world doesn't know about. Okay, everybody, I think, intuitively understands what I'm talking about, where there are people like Jeff Bezos. I don't know how much money he's got, but it's a lot. It's many billions of dollars. How does he protect his wealth? Who does he interact with? What kinds of conversations does he have to make decisions about what to do? Right? What's really going on with Elon Musk? So everybody out there has to admit that they don't know how people with power behave.
I would go even a step further, Paul.
Okay.
The ones that show you the Virgin Mobile guy, right? On television, they showed us all, right?
Yeah,
Branson.
Ryan.
Trump, Elon Musk, right? These ones that are on your television and do certain things and act certain ways and have shows, and it's a show.
Yes. Now think bigger. Think Jacob Rothschild.
He's not on TV.
Well, you can see him in certain interviews, and he's always saying really bad shit.
You know who's a great one to go along with what you just said?
Mhm.
Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, a lot of the things he says are true.
I told you guys when this started.
Yep. Now, I'm not going to say everything he's saying is true, but that guy's put there for you to hate him. So the point is, unless you understand how that dark, impenetrable system works, you don't know fuck all anything about how the world works.
You just dropped the F-bomb. That was good.
I did.
It was a good one.
I did it to increase impact. Wham!
You did.
So the thing is, if you really want to hate Hillary Clinton, and at the same time you don't know how the world works, you cannot say whether or not she's a good guy or a bad guy. You just don't know.
I want to bring this up. Song Babe mentions this. Let's talk about Pepe Orsini. Look, if you were controlling the world and you needed people to believe that there was good and bad, you could make there would be people that would have a public face that we would all think that they're really bad guys.
Yeah, we'd hate them.
That's Rothschild. That's Orsini. We don't know. We really don't know. Yeah, we can find all this information on Orsini. And we can find all this bad stuff on Soros and Klaus Schwab and all of these other guys.
But they own all the publishers. They own all the TV stations. They own all the writers.
Wouldn't it make more sense if all these media companies are owned by really bad people? Why did they continue to make themselves look bad?
Oh, it's a damn good question.
Okay, so let me just dive into deep history to give people stuff to chew on.
Can I say one thing? All the world's a stage.
All the world's a stage, and we are merely
players. Everybody, performer and portrayer.
If you go back and look at the Book of the Dead, because I brought it up earlier, you're going to find a pattern in there, which appears like to be approved by the people who run the world. You have to go through this process. I'm not even going to describe the process. You can read about it, but that's where the number 42 is.
The Egyptian Book of the Dead. You can find it. It's translated.
Right. So there's three major categories of Egyptology, which is Old Egypt, Middle Egypt, and recent Egypt. In Old Egypt, it was only the most important. It was pharaohs and very, very important people, pharaohs and their queens or whatever. And then you get into Middle Egypt, and now they're doing like governors of regions and more people, right? Less senior people are getting the Book of the Dead in their tombs. And then you get into recent Egypt, and it's become an industry. The scribes are charging money, and anybody who can afford a tomb has the Book of the Dead in their tomb. Okay? And then Egypt stops. Doesn't it look like that disclosing how getting accepted into the people who run the world might be kind of a problem? Let's stop doing that. Let's go over here and do Rome.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's exactly what that looks like.
This makes a lot of things in history that don't make sense start to make sense. Like, where did the Mayans go?
It makes perfect sense. That's the point.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense if the
World's
people who run the world are benevolent.
We just talked about the World's Fair. The World's Fair had running water and free electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And no one questions this?
Maybe it was done that way to bury it so that people would dig it up and go, we're being lied to. In other words, they set up the situation for now so that humanity would figure out that they shouldn't believe everything they see.
Which perfectly explains Ingersoll Lockwood's books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we don't know if they were really published in 1898 or 1899. That's
At all.
so easily
that's what it
fakeable.
says in the Library of Congress, but those could have been
nobody knew about them until like 2019 and 20.
Yeah, we don't even know if they existed.
Right.
They can fake all of this, and they do. They have the power to do it. So that's John and I approached this completely rationally and said, okay, however that murky shit above us works, it's got to be strange. So let's look at different scenarios and see what fits. What would explain all of this stuff we see? And we ended up going back and we developed the Percival theory, which we believe is correct. But the Percival theory is even a layer below this. Mm-hmm. And when you get bigger and bigger and you start looking into the Pilgrim Society and the pilgrims that came and settled the United States and the Constitution and how that formed, and you look at the origin of the House of Orange, it goes all the way back to Charlemagne. And yeah, it's the Davidic bloodline, right? But we don't even think these people pay attention to bloodlines that much. It's more about how you think.
Yep. It may have been blood. It may have been that. It may have been the bloodline stuff early on. But think about this. Think about the church, for example, the Catholic Church, as a way to find capable people to bring into this. We call them the Zoids,
and as a way to find criminals.
Yeah. So you would have access, these rich families, if the church was out there and they could see, of all the parishioners in the different places, the priests in the small towns, they go, hey, he tells his bishop, you know what, we've got this one kid, like it shows him, he seems pretty smart. And so they get him as a novitiate and they bring him in as an apprentice priest and they send him off to some monastery somewhere. And they,
and they groom him for 30 years to make sure that he's actually good. And if he's good enough, then he ends up, when he's older, being a person with influence.
Yep.
And if he's a criminal, they get rid of him.
Well, remember, we think that they ran the world using corruption and criminality to control people. Until technology existed that would eliminate the need for that sort of corruption. That's where we find ourselves right now, is where that break point is.
Yeah, the stuff I found about 2001 is it verifies that.
Yeah, it does.
You don't want to dump it, Joe? Tell me. I want to dump it.
We have time. That'd be awesome. I've got time.
I told you when you started. Look, when you guys come on the show, I hope everybody finds some level of appreciation within this. But John and Paul are two of the most fearless free thinkers I know. So when they come on the show, I'm not going to censor you. I'm going to just do my best to try to be the bridge between the audience and you guys. I think that it works great. I respect you guys to the fullest. I couldn't possibly respect you more. If you got something you want to dump, do it.
Okay, this is really strange, and I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning thinking about this, because about a week ago someone had said online that Dave in 2001 was one of two characters that were the main characters on the trip to Jupiter in 2001, and they get in a scuffle with the computer on the spaceship, where the computer locks Dave out of the spaceship, and Dave says, "Open the pod bay doors, please, Al." And Dave says, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that." And so somebody said, well, maybe that represents the Davidic bloodline. And that's been rattling around in my head. And I woke up this morning and thought, well, okay, if Dave's the Davidic bloodline, actually, this happened a couple days ago. I looked up the other guy's name. His name, I believe, was Frederick, or I can't remember the first name, but Frank. His last name was Poole. Frank Poole? Okay. So Frank Poole was the other guy with Dave. Okay, two humans. And the computer ends up killing Frank and then locking Dave out of the spaceship. Okay, so I looked up Frank Poole and I looked up the meaning of the name. Poole, Poole, is the town or the city, the coastal town in Britain, where the Romans landed in 100 AD. I don't think that's an accident. I think when they wrote the script for that, they intentionally picked Poole to be the Romans, to be symbolic of the Romans. Okay, because you have the Davidics and the Romans. We believe the Davidics and the Romans have a slight philosophical difference. The Romans are more conservative. They want to change things more slowly over time. And they're okay with things like gladiator fights and more human carnage than the Davidics are. The Davidics are much more peaceful, much more pacifist, much more willing to do things quicker. And one could say more liberal, which is bizarre. But anyway, so you have the Davidics and the Romans. And so you have Dave, who's the Davidics, and you have Frank Poole, who's the Romans. Well, Dave ends up breaking into the computer and disabling the computer. Okay. Because of other stuff that I won't get into the details of, we think that the people who run the world, who actually I'm going to have to go on a little tangent here. If you want to look in the book of Enoch, you'll find Metatron is a character.
I'm just turning my camera off. Keep going. I'm listening. Okay.
Okay. So Metatron is the most powerful angel in heaven, according to the book of Enoch. Okay. It is the angel tasked with recording all of human activity. That sounds a lot like the people who run the world, right? Metaphorically. So going back to the 2001 story, Dave breaks in, he disables the computer or changes it, and then he goes through the psychedelic sequence that metaphorically could be looked at as seeing everything that the Romans saw, because the Romans were the more powerful faction. Okay, so the Romans had control of everything, so they had control of the computer. And when the Davidic bloodline got into the computer and looked at it, they said, oh, dear God, look at all this information. That's that psychedelic sequence, I think. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, there's the old guy, which I think is supposed to be Dave, where he's looking at himself in this opulent environment. And it isn't really explained very well in the movie. I'm going to get the book and read it. But I think it's metaphorical, okay, for everything that's going on. What happened is in the 1800s, the technology was developed to create computers. Okay. In 1886, there was a book published. What was the name of it? Something's Eve, Future's Eve.
The Future Eve.
Yeah, the Future Eve, which to make a long story real short, is about an android. It's the book that Android was coined in, which means that the people who are in control of the world were thinking about machines that could think. That is an incredibly forward-looking thing for 1886. Now, the reason I think they had MOSFETs is because if you look at the world fairs in the mid-1800s, there were all sorts of vacuum chamber pump manufacturers that were selling vacuum chamber pumps. Well, vacuum chambers were really common because they were coating lenses. Well, who was buying the lenses? People who wanted telescopes. That's the people who run the world. They're mapping stars. Okay, so I think they got into their semiconductor technology a lot earlier than what they're telling us. Mm-hmm. And I think they knew computers were possible in the late 1800s, which means that the people, this Metatron, which is like the top node of the people who run the world, I think, they were developing computers way before they're telling us. Okay, and that's what hatched this plan to eliminate crime. Okay, so going back to 2001, I'm going to look at it from a different angle. 2001 was written by Stanley Kubrick.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Right. Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick wrote the script. Now, Arthur C. Clarke in 1948 published a story called The Sentinel, which you might remember the Judas Priest song, The Sentinel, which because of all this I've just found, I reevaluated what that means. And I think it's a script to the whole thing. Okay. So the Sentinel describes humans go to the moon. They find a pyramid object on the moon in a crater called Mare Sirius. Is that correct?
Mare. It's Latin for
Mare,
for Sea of Crises.
Yes, Sea of Crises. Okay, the pyramid was found on the moon. It's got a force field around it, and it's emitting signals. And so it takes them 20 years to get through the force field, but in doing so, they destroy the pyramid, and it's made out of some substance that humanity has no comprehension of. Okay, now metaphorically, what does this mean? Well, if you look at 2001, they took that kind of same storyline, except they changed it into a monolith. All right. Now, what have John and I been saying? They got the technology to suppress crime, computers, and surveillance. And so they're changing their system from a pyramidical hierarchy into a monolithic control structure. You see? That's why they changed it to a monolith in 2001, because it's no longer a pyramid. The whole Illuminati pyramid is obsolete because of surveillance and computing.
The monolith goes into tons of rabbit holes, right? So we have the one in DC that sits.
Well, you're talking about obelisks. Those are different.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, you're talking about obelisks. Obelisks and monoliths are not the same.
Well, okay. Well then explain to me, because I must have. I'm doing 20 things at once. So what's the difference in the monolith?
An obelisk is basically a phallic shaped thing.
Yeah, it looks like
they're usually square, like the Washington Monument. Washington or Jefferson? Yeah,
Washington Monument. Yeah, but as a pyramid on the top, it's an Egyptian.
Yeah. Correct. Yes. Okay. So that's what I was thinking. So then if I missed it, would you mind just quickly explain to me what you mean then?
The monolith is basically a big rectangle, and I think the whole point of changing it in the movie 2001 to a monolith is it's a hint that the people who run the world have changed their structure all back through the last 6,000 years until this change we're going through now. They have had to control the evil in humanity by controlling all of the hierarchical structures. So if you have a drug cartel over here and you've got an arms dealer over here, those are businesses that can get out of control with evil people where they can cause a lot of damage, right? So the best way to control them is to run them. The best way to control an opponent is to lead them. So they ran all the crime organizations to make sure they could never get out of control.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
Okay, right? That's a pyramidal structure. That's a hierarchy. But once you get pervasive surveillance and computing power that's capable enough, you no longer need to control the crime hierarchies. You can eliminate them. And that doesn't look like a hierarchy. That's just a monolithic node at the top that says, you don't do crime.
Songbabe mentioned something, the monoliths that were popping up the past few years. Yeah, like the one in the Utah desert, the one in Wales or the UK.
Could those be hints?
I forgot all about those. Thank you for mentioning that. That's awesome.
Would it not be an absurd thought to think that the new monetary piece of paper would have a monolith rather than a pyramid?
Pyramid? I bet it does.
Maybe.
I mean, the thing is, what's weird is just the fact that John and I can find these things in the media tells us, and by the way, it's not like we found a few things and we're whack jobs going off on this. There's thousands of them all over the place. All of the major shit, all the major songs and all the major artists are publishing this stuff. All the major movies have these same sorts of metaphorical messages in them. It's called the bird language or the green language or the language. Look it up.
I think 480 put a really good one sentence. Monolith equals no hierarchy. Everyone is directly accountable to one authority. Is that?
Well, you have a hierarchy in that you have the node that controls everything, and then you have everybody else. So technically that's a hierarchy with one level, but it's a monolithic system in that you have one big chunk that serves its purpose. So like with operating systems, a monolithic operating system is a big blob that you can't mess with. And then you have all the stuff that happens that the user does.
So, I mean, so there is a hierarchy in that sense. There always will be.
Right, but it isn't a multi-layer pyramid.
Yeah, right. But there always will be that group of people that run the world and everyone else.
Right.
This might seem really out there to you guys, but for some reason it triggered a thought in my head. I've been really deep into the generations of war, right? First, second, third, fourth. We're now fifth. Are we now fifth generation warfare? Are we not sixth or seventh or eighth generation warfare, where it starts to get into more of an AI and computer based that's controlling us? Do you see a parallel in what you're talking with this monolith with generations of war? Because
I think the generations of war are completely artificial. It's part of the narrative that they've seeded into the population.
Yeah, because fifth generation warfare has been going on since the First World War.
War ever since 6,000 years ago, or whenever the Metatron became a thing. War's artificial. They control the whole damn world. They controlled the wars.
Mm-hmm.
They were probably using the wars to get rid of evil factions that would otherwise end up causing more damage than the war would cause.
Or actually, I think early on, the Romans. So when Paul and I talk about Romans and Davidics, the Romans were super powerful. They were the ones who really ran the world. And they ran it through corruption. They ran it through war. They got rid of their rivals through war or otherwise corruption.
Yeah, by the way, Queen of the Damned, Akasha represents the Romans. Go ahead.
Thank you for sacrificing yourself, by the way, and watching all the Twilight movies, because I didn't.
I did that.
You did.
You see, you felt
Leon Larger. That's what Leon Larger was talking about with the sacrifices. Yeah. You forced yourself to watch the Twilight movies.
Did you cry at all?
No, they're awful. But I'll tell you what, metaphorically, what's in those movies is just like in your face. It's exactly what I'm talking about. The whole narrative with the vampires, that's Metatron.
So Romans and Davidics, the difference, both want to
advance
control, both want to protect life. Yeah. And the way the Romans chose to do it was through corruption and everything else. The Davidics come along and say, look, we can get humanity advanced further. We're going to have to take our lumps. We're going to lose a lot of people. Trolley test.
Well, and John, really quickly, I think John agrees with me, but I think probably more than half of that paramedical structure was crime.
Yeah. Well, it's how they kept people divided.
Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna I bring this up all the time, but Star Trek, the original, there are there's so much symbolism and so much analogy and metaphor in all of those episodes. And the one that really got us, the reason why we call them Romans, I think it's called Bread and Circus. Spock and Kirk beam down to this planet that shows humanoids. And they come down to find out all these people. It's like a Roman society with modern technology. And Spock and Kirk are meeting with like the, whatever his title would be, the Caesar or whatever. And he turns to him and he says, well, you know, we've seen how your humanity has gone. You've had 4 world wars in the past, 200 years. Meanwhile, on our planet, we've had no war for 400 years. Except, so both ways are legit. They're both trying to protect life.
Right.
But the Roman version of it was basically 100% people under the boot, under the control of the top, like forceful control.
Yeah.
And the Davidics are saying, look, it's worth the price to pay to get humanity to a point where we don't have to have a boot on the throat.
Yeah, I mean, look at the carnage of the last 100 years. You got like 100 million deaths.
Yep.
Right. But the Davidics said getting to different star systems faster is worth it.
Yep.
And the Romans said, we don't have to go through all that carnage. We'll just do it slower. And the Davidics said, what if the solar system's taken out before then? And there's no way to rationally answer that question.
There's no way to rationally ask that question.
But these are the questions that these guys are living with. I mean, they're the decisions they have to make.
Okay, so as Joe's citizen, if I were to try to digest the depth, the level of stuff you guys just dropped, right?
They can't comprehend it. People won't believe it. They won't understand it. And they'll get out their pitchforks and say, if I can't understand it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Wait, you mean you led us to war?
Right.
You fuckers.
So for anybody who's really interested, look up Candidate 1. It's a star that I think in the 90s, maybe early 90s, was identified as heading directly toward the solar system. Okay. In 1.26 million years, it will arrive at the solar system. And it very likely will disrupt all of the orbits of the planets. That will kill everyone in 1.26 million years. Okay, now that's the first one they found.
My brain hurts.
How many have they found? How much time do we have left?
Yeah.
If you're the richest person in the world, or you're in a group of 50 of them, and they're all looking at this, and the astronomers are going, yep, that's coming right at us. We got this many years left. Then what do? You go out and tell all the people on the street that are playing Xbox that, hey, we really should stop doing that. We should go to other star systems because it's going to take hundreds of years to do it. And no, everybody's going to go, well, screw that. I'm not going to be alive. I'm going to party.
Right.
I got a question. Hold on. Braised Piano, thank you very much for the cookie. Denise Murray dropped the $17 Rumble rant right when you started talking. She said, go for it, dump away. Thank you very, very much. And Lord, I texted her and I said, hey, send me a Joe M video so we can end out the show. So we do have a Joe M video coming up at the end. I have 4 to choose from. She hooked us up. But
we love
Denise.
Right.
What's that?
We love Denise.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
So I feel like you just doxed her. So
well, her name's Denise Murray. I mean, come on.
Oh, you're talking about Denise. Okay. All right. Yes. We do love Denise. I thought you were throwing Lord under the bus. All right. The monolithic structure. This is where, if I think like somebody that might be watching this show, look, the word freedom is something that we as a country stand for. Right? Is freedom a complete fallacy? So, what I mean is, in this new model, if you go from the pyramid to the monolith, either way, both ways, from what I'm hearing, freedom is a fallacy. There's always some sort of hierarchy that is controlling everything that we're doing. So freedom, from what I heard, from the way I took it in, is not real. It's something that's made up to give us a level of comfort, maybe. And
well, I mean, you don't have the freedom to float off the surface of the planet either, because gravity exists.
Okay, that's brilliant. This is what I want to hear. So, how do normal people understand and comprehend what you're getting at with this monolithic level of hierarchy, to where we can wake up tomorrow and believe we're free citizens?
This is why I think General Flynn says what he says. Local action. Control what you can control, and someone else is going to control everything else. He's said that. General Flynn has specifically said someone else will take care of the stuff you can't control.
Now, that can be taken to mean, well, I've got my sphere, and there's all these other spheres of influence around the country, and they're going to take care of their stuff.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you've got the invisible Adam Smith's invisible hand, controlling everything. But true freedom, like 100% freedom, I don't think humanity could. I don't think we'd survive without some group controlling the world. And people don't want to hear that. This is
go back to that video of the heads getting exchanged. Do you want the people who believe that's real to decide what humanity should do for the next 100 years?
No, I don't want girls wearing vagina hats to control anything.
Yeah.
No, that too.
Yeah. How do you tell those people, we'll handle this? You can't.
No.
They won't understand it.
I've seen Anons go, well, unless there's 100% transparency, unless they tell me I need to know. We deserve to know. Really?
That's a big one.
How about you first? Tell me all the skeletons in your closet.
Right.
They'll never do it.
That's a brilliant point. That's a brilliant point.
Nobody has a right to know what's in anybody else's mind.
That's a brilliant point, and the pushback would be, I'm not in control of humanity.
Right. Well, yeah. So what? The rule changes when you have more wealth? What if you're not the biggest person who runs the world, but you're like half the size and you cooperate with the biggest? Now do you have the right to privacy? Like, where down this whole hierarchy of human power does the rule change to the guy on the street? You don't have the right to know what Jacob Rothschild is going to do next. He doesn't have to tell you. There's no law that says that.
You don't have
that's only because you want it to be that way.
Yeah, you don't have the right to know exactly what happened in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
It would horrify you.
Yeah, it really freaking would.
People have had to make bad, hard trolley chest choices.
You got to understand, if we're correct, if this structure that runs the world eliminated 60% of their ability to gain wealth and control people, somewhere around that, to get rid of the crime out of their own structure. They took out their own people because their people objected and they went to war with them. That's what the Judas Priest song Sentinel is about. Those are the challengers. And Gort went in and took them out. They were taking out their own guys.
Look at all the hair metal songs from the 80s, all the ones balls to the wall, except.
Yeah, but this brings me to, shocking, a Rambo meme that says, wait until the guys that just want to be left alone get involved. Like, why my rational mind, I think, why are these dumbasses even messing with us? Like, why don't they just leave me alone? Because I wouldn't mess with them if they didn't mess with us. And then it goes to the meme where everyone's standing bent over with the game board on their backs and a couple of the elites playing a game on it, and it says the game's over if everyone just stands up. Well, this leads me to believe that that's not really. That would just be some messaging from them.
Yep.
To make us believe.
Let me address that directly.
That we have any power at all.
Right. In order to change the way the system works so that crime is just gone, because I believe when this is done, crime is going to be seen as a mental disorder.
Yep.
If you're committing crime, you're stupid because you're going to get caught. Right? Because there's pervasive surveillance. They already have the ability to solve just about every single crime that happens. Okay.
Talking about quantum pairs?
No, we don't even need to go there. But so the image of all the people with the game board on their back, that whole thing, that's there in order to convince the population that there's a bad guy that needs to be removed, and the people remove the bad guy. They understand good guy, bad guy narratives. They don't understand what we're talking about. So what they're doing is they're showing the population something that they understand so that the population feels that, yeah, all we had to do was stand up for our rights, and we did it. We fixed it, right? And the government we have works. That's the position you need the population in, is to believe those things.
Constitutional republic.
Right. How do you minimize the damage to the sheep? You got to give them a story they understand so they don't run off a cliff.
Yep. And you know what? I think in terms of freedom, humanity will be, when this is done, humanity will be as free as we've ever been. But 100% freedom is not correct. And DC Lidstone, exactly. If people knew, if Paul and I are right, everything that's happened in the 20th century, even the bad stuff, especially the bad stuff.
This may be the most free thought conversation that's ever been had live.
I don't think most people can get their head around this.
I can't believe there's still almost 300 watching on Rumble. I can't believe I can't believe how many people are still here hanging out. A hat tip to all of you for engaging and being part of this conversation. I think it's imperative. I truly do. I think this free thought process and sharing of thoughts in this way is what we're meant to do in the end. I think that you guys are ahead of the curve. That's the truth.
I'm pretty sure we are. I mean, go to my website and you'll see certificates that aren't the same as what my website's putting out.
Well, it's funny because tomorrow I'm going to come back on here with Absolute 1776 with this knowledge, but have to re-engage, right? And I mean, no disrespect to that. I'm going to re-engage in the Q drops and the connections and what we see happening in the news. And it's you guys have made it difficult for me to post on X. I'm going to tell you the truth.
This is why John and I have gone. Well, one of our friends referred to it as radio silent. We've cut down how much we say publicly because it doesn't help. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It can help a small percentage of the population that is open-minded enough and free-thinking enough to get their head around it. But most people are just going to reject this and go with the narrative that's being given to them because that's how you have to deal with people. I mean,
I'm about to offend you, Paul. I'm gonna offend you real quick.
I don't think it's possible. I've tried.
I'm definitely gonna.
I watched all the Twilight movies. I binged watched them, so bring it on.
You even have kind of the look. You know what you remind me of? And I worry that people see you the same way. This is definitely going to offend you.
Say it.
I mean it with all love. You remind me of the first time I saw Simon Parks tell everyone his mom was an alien.
that doesn't surprise me at all. And actually, no, John and I have had hours and hours and hours of conversations with how to, like, do you even try to convince people of this stuff? Because if it isn't going to help them in their life, then what's the point? Like, if they're happy with a slightly incorrect but harmless narrative, why would you try to, like, is it the truth that's most important, or is it life? Yeah. If they're going to have a better life that's more productive, living in a manipulated lie, is that a better outcome? I mean, you get into these really weird philosophical trolley test questions.
Yeah.
That's why you have to think about life or death and not about good or bad, because good or bad can lead you astray.
Yeah, and I hope you took that as a joke, because I do. I think that you have one of the most brilliant minds I've ever hung out. I mean, you've beer coined the name Smart Paul. I think there's a reason for that. And John, there could not be a better partner for Paul in the way that you guys think and bounce off of each other. It's absolutely brilliant. It truly is. It is.
Yeah, when John and I got together, we accelerated, because two people bouncing ideas off each other are a lot more powerful than just one person.
Yeah, we wouldn't be where we're at in our, but we believe the understanding is, again, we could be wrong. We say that a lot. So if you guys,
a year ago, neither of us believed any of what we're saying, or almost any of what we're saying now. These are conclusions that we've derived by digging into this for just thousands of hours.
Which leads me to the very realistic idea that next year you will be talking about this slightly differently.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know that
in more detail.
I don't know that even if Paul and I are right, I don't know that there'll ever be anything to confirm it, because why? The background of this wouldn't necessarily need to be known.
The bird language that's out there in the media is there for us to find. They have definitely deliberately put the message out there for us to find. That's why we're okay talking about it, because I think otherwise we wouldn't talk about it, because you can make a really good argument that this is just going to confuse people. But I mean, it's not like the world's not full of confusing shit anyway. I mean, if people see me as Simon Parks having an alien wife, okay, then go believe something else. I don't care.
It was his mom.
But yeah, going back to this, like, there's a weird phenomenon, Joe, that has happened to both Joe and I over the last year. And that is, we kept thinking bigger and bigger and finding patterns that match better and better. And you go through these shells, but when you hit the last shell, it's different. You're outside the box.
Which is why I promote what you guys do, because I think those shells, peeling the layers of the onion in the thought process, I think that's part of this process.
I think so too.
That's part of ascension.
Yeah. They appear to want people to find this. I think what's going on, though, is they know that most people won't get all the way, but just elevating them up into a different shell is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people will still be in what John and I call the cartoon narrative, which is, all the contemporary stuff with Q and Trump and Biden. I mean, it's so cringy at this point. Like, daily stupid things are happening that can't happen in the real world.
Yeah, that's so blatantly not Biden that it's retarded.
Right. But most people will end up believing that's what happened. Will they believe that in 2 generations? No. You know why? Because these people control the schools, and they're going to teach them better history. Right. So over time, they can really elevate people's understanding up a couple notches, but there's still more layers on top of that they can't. And there's, I would say, sociological reasons you can't still.
Well, I think you never cease to amaze. Go ahead, John.
Well, the thing about peeling back those layers is you can't do it out of sequence. It's not possible, because, like what Paul said before, when we first started talking, all the stuff that we're saying, we didn't see it, wouldn't have believed it if somebody had told us. But we went through this progression. And I'd also say that the other thing, it's not just hours spent digging on stuff. It's also just we both have a really diverse intellectual background. Like we've probably both read all of most of the classics and that kind of stuff. We both understand some different languages. We both have this ability to have like, okay, I've read all kinds of history stuff my entire life, even ancient stuff. And so now all of this stuff without even having to go dig for it. Like when we were looking at House of Orange, we're like, well, House of Orange, well, yeah, that kind of came from Burgundy in France, Burgundy, Davidic Templars, Charlemagne. I mean, all the stuff that was sitting in my head, what I thought uselessly, from years spent.
Well, I would say it's largely useless except for this.
Right.
Except for all of humanity.
Except for figuring out everything. Like, by the way, to add a fine point to that 42 thing, since it's come up a couple times, in the Book of the Dead, in order to get to your successful afterlife, you have to go before 42 judges that each interrogate you about whether or not you've committed a specific sin. Okay, and you have to answer all the questions. You go through that, and then you get to Osiris, the god of the underworld, who weighs your heart against a feather. You go across this field of water if you don't get devoured by a monster, if you fail that test. Then you go across water. Then you go to a field of reeds, which is like seagrass. Then you get to a world of plenty where everything's taken care of for you, except you live in a house that looks exactly like the house you came from. Doesn't that just sound like your previous self died, but in reality, you're still alive and you're just part of the people who run the world?
Sounds kind of like vampires, Paul.
Oh, it sounds exactly like vampires. They don't actually die.
You do. We could do this all day. Was there was something before we started Leon Larger's thread that you wanted to touch on, and we're running out of time. So if we want to do that, I want to shift to do that before we play one Joe M video and get out of here.
That was the whole 2001 thing, I think.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, so, no, I don't. Check this out. Did you guys see that clip of Garland being questioned by Massey? Joe, I sent you a link, a Twitter thing. And I actually posted, I haven't posted anything on X in forever. And I posted something on it because at the very end, maybe I'm wrong, but it sure looks like Merrick Garland just about breaks character. I think this is all a show. I think he tries not to smile. That's the way
this?
Yeah. Right at the end before the clip ends, just notice it.
All right, let's listen.
Nominated by President Biden or confirmed by the U.S. Senate.
You're asking me about a case again, motions filed.
This is a simple question.
No, I'm not.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden?
No, he was not.
Was he confirmed by the Senate?
No, he was not.
When was the special counsel statute passed?
There is no special counsel statute. There was an independent counsel statute that was expired.
So it expired. So what gives you the authority to appoint a special counsel? You've created an office in the U.S. government that does not exist.
That's a horrible part.
Without authorization from Congress.
Was it? Did he smile right there at the end?
Yeah, he smirked. He smirked.
Without authorization from Congress.
I could be totally wrong.
Yeah. It's hard to read, but for a million other reasons, we think this is all a show. And it's the most compassionate thing to do with people because they understand the show. And they need to get on with their lives, but they need to see how bad crime is. And so the world that we've been brought up in has been artificially bad with crime. It appears to be bad with crime. Everything's been exaggerated and amplified. I mean, did you hear about the spiders, the 4-inch spiders that are headed toward New York?
I missed that one.
Yeah, there's a whole news story. Like, oh, there's these 4-inch spiders that are headed to New York. So if you're in New York, watch out. It's just like murder hornets or the bees are going extinct or any of these other stories.
What happened to the truckload of monkeys that wrecked in like 2020 in Pennsylvania?
Oh, yeah, that was in Pennsylvania. And they had AIDS or something, right?
Yeah,
it's apparently.
All these stories are bullshit. And they're putting them out there for the hypervigilant to notice, hey, all these stories are bullshit. Right?
Okay. Let's
in 30 years when crime is considered a mental disorder, none of this will matter. They just will have fixed the world to get everybody in the right frame of mind so that we don't have to have crime anymore, and they don't have to run the bad guy organizations because there are none.
Greg said, what's going to happen next year? That's what we were going to talk about. What do we think is going to happen?
Okay, good. So go, because I got an idea for the end of the show. Go ahead. Let's do
this. Somehow, the way the end game that we see when this is all done is that we have our system of laws clarified and codified. That maybe there's a constitutional convention at some point, but we've got to get to a point where people see the oh God, it's so hard to jump between to go re-engage with these other narratives, but people need to see that the government structure that we have actually works. The judicial system works. The Constitution is clear that corruption has been taken care of. The elections get cleaned up.
Organized crime has to be the biggest problem that needs to be solved.
Yep. So how do we get there? I mean, that's exactly where Paul and I are like, well, we originally said, well, military control, but there are other ways that actually that's probably an inescapable one.
I think military control with no president is necessary.
So in order for that to happen, the presidential line of succession needs to be taken out because the military stepping in would be a coup otherwise.
Yeah.
Isn't it possible that's what we're dealing with right this very second?
I think a more accurate, like if you really want to get to the core truth for 6,000 years, I think government is a lie.
I'm exhausted talking to you
I mean, okay, between now and then. So the elections are going to need to be shown to be the sham that they are. And I had originally posited before, like a year ago, I still kind of like this idea, but that you would have Biden or somebody say that in September before the election, hey, I've signed an executive order. We need to have make sure that our elections are free and clear and have integrity and whatever bullshit he would say. I've authorized Space Force to monitor our elections, precinct-wide, countrywide, da-da-da. So Trump, on the vote, 2 days, within a day or whatever, Trump has declared the winner. He's won by like 6 million votes. And then Biden and the military step out and go, whoa, not so fast. Space Force is going to present their report. They present their report and they say, we've got electronic interference in every single precinct, or nearly every single precinct. It is so corrupted, the information. We don't know who won. And meanwhile, now the left are going, oh, thank God Orange Man didn't win. I knew it. They rigged it. So the military could, this is again, without the military being in control, this would be Biden. The military might say, okay, we are going to run the election. We're going to do it next number of weeks. It's going to be 1 day, voter ID only. And Trump wins by, instead of 5 or 6 million, like 12 or 15 million. And everyone goes, holy shit.
Yeah.
Our elections have been compromised.
And then Trump makes it his biggest issue to have a constitutional convention or whatever is necessary to clarify the Constitution so that this can never happen again. And we need to use military surveillance because that's the only way we can catch the criminals. And they're going to do that.
It is. And he's been saying repeatedly, especially recently, I'm fighting for our Constitution.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over and over again.
So Trump is,
what if at the Constitutional Convention, what if every state says, you know what, we agree, we are going to cede control of the elections to the federal government. So the federal government can specify when, where, how, what restrictions, all that kind of stuff. That would eliminate this patchwork of bullshit that we have in my home state of Minnesota, for example.
That's a really nice
compliment. That's sweet.
That's a really nice compliment.
Yeah,
you.
it
truly is.
Very humbling. I'm
really.
blushing.
Well, if I can cut you off on that thought till the next time that we do this, which I hope to do in the next couple weeks, if you guys are down. I want to get you guys on more than you're doing if you're okay with it. I love these mind expanding conversations. I have an idea. So you guys don't really watch the news, right?
No. Well, I mean, we
monitor.
we see it fly by, but most of this stuff is like we're looking at the information space right now, saying 99% of this is just bullshit for the masses.
Right. I have 5 clips I did not watch. Right, when I was running late to get here this morning, I went to Carly Bonet. Hat tip, love Carly. Carly's been on the show before. Hopefully, she'll be on again here soon. And I just pulled 4 or 5 of the most recent clips. Right, so after a mind expanding conversation like we've had, I would love to just run through some of these and get a raw reaction, and then we'll go out with a Joe M clip. You guys cool with that? I think it'll be interesting after having conversations like we've had to get your takes on what's currently happening this morning on the news. Right? All right. Here's the first one that I pulled up. Again, I have not seen these. This was literally filler just in case we needed them, and now I think it's going to be interesting. Let's take a watch.
Agent looked at the serial numbers and said, "This is Hunter Biden's laptop." Here's what we were told about Hunter Biden's laptop.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
This is where he's.
Was that your laptop?
For real, I don't know.
I know, but you know
this
is.
I really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is.
You don't know yes or no if the laptop.
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea. I have no idea.
So could have been yours.
Of course, certainly. There could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me.
Did you leave a laptop with a repairman
Not
in
that I
Wilmington?
remember.
Not that you remember.
No.
Because you were high.
Whether or not somebody has my laptop, whether or not it was I was hacked, whether or not there exists a laptop at all, I truly don't know.
Are you missing a laptop?
Not that I know of.
Yesterday, 51 intel officers told us it was the hallmark of disinformation. The New York Post, one of the most widely circulated newspapers in the country, was banned. The future president of the United States told us it was all a lie. And I just want to point out quickly the irony of election interference. President Trump, election interference. That's what we were told last Thursday with the guilty verdict. Who brought forward the laptop and said it was disinformation? The left. Who brought forward the Steele dossier and said Trump is a Russian colluder? The left. Who told us all of these lies? The left. Who carried the water? The press. And yesterday, the MacBook 13 was verified by a federal agent.
Cool show.
And go.
Oh, come on. I don't know if a laptop even existed. If said laptop might have existed, it might have been mine. Or maybe I was hacked. I wasn't there, didn't do it. I wasn't drinking. It's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, can you make it look any more like bullshit? And that's the point, is to make it look like bullshit so people go, he's lying. I know he's lying.
Yeah.
It's to make us think that we're figuring it out.
Yes. And that's what's so, like, people don't, have you ever seen the movie Mr. Deeds? Right? Where the guy says, I think you underestimate the sneakiness. That's what's going on. These people are really, really good at molding mass perception. That's what they do. They're the magi. And they're doing it worldwide. When you think about how complicated this is in the US, they're doing it in every culture around the world, in every language at the same time. This is being engineered on a global scale.
I wonder if they're controlling the information being given out territorially. Like we can't see RT News. Yeah. We can't get, I talked about this yesterday. I can't look at Snapchat's maps in Ukraine.
Joe, I think they have capabilities that are way, way, way beyond what the visible experts will ever say, whether or not they know about it. And I don't think most of the experts even know what they have. They have computing power that is just...
Starlink's up there doing something.
We don't even know what's up there, man.
All right. So I think this goes back to something DC and we referenced. It's getting so cringy. That's the most cringy. I can't do anything when I watch that but laugh my ass off. This is so funny.
They've over the past 5, 6, 7 years, they've been working their way down. I'm going to piss people off when I say this. They've been working their way down the IQ scale. So like 5 or 6 years ago, it was really hard to tell what was real and not. And now you got to be pretty inbred to not see it.
I'm sorry. I mean, I can't help but laugh at that. All right, let's do another
Inbred, really?
Whatever. I'm in the South. I can say that. I'm from Florida, man. That's why I got this crazy hair.
Let's watch another one.
Another video showed Hunter shirtless and holding a pipe. Let's go to Rich Edson, who is live right now from the Wilmington courthouse with more details. Rich.
Good afternoon. The prosecution is really moving through its witnesses right now. Zoe Keston, an ex-girlfriend of Hunter, is on the stand right now. That was just after Hunter Biden's ex-wife, Kathleen Buell, took the stand. She walked right past here after leaving the court building. We asked her whether or how it went inside, and
this is Jerry
really
Springer.
didn't have much of an answer. And continued walking down the street. The case that they're trying to make, the prosecution saying that Hunter abused drugs when he bought that gun back in 2018.
It's
And they're
Jerry
using
Springer.
Hunter's exes and excerpts from his own audio
In
book.
real life.
Buell said she
This is why they put Jerry Springer out, to get people used to that idea.
said she was suspicious before that, since Hunter had been kicked out of the Navy for testing positive for cocaine. She said that Hunter was angry when he was using drugs, not himself. She also said she would check the cars before allowing her daughters to use them, so they weren't driving around with drugs. The prosecution and defense also spoke to FBI Special Agent Erica Jensen. She was assigned the case last year to connect Hunter's drug use to the time of that gun purchase.
These are different Hunters, dude.
The defense pointed out Hunter
there's at least two.
wasn't in possession of it from April 2019 to December 2019. It was at that computer store. The prosecution countered by asking Jensen if she saw any evidence of tampering. She responded no. The prosecution also reminded the court that during a 3-month period in the
Where's
fall of
Ivan
2018,
screaming, "What kind of crack do you buy?"
$151,000 was withdrawn from Hunter Biden's account. Hunter's attorneys maintain that that was to use to pay for rehab and tuition for his daughter. Though the prosecution asked Jensen, do drug dealers accept credit cards?
Oh my
Jensen
God.
responded, First Lady Jill Biden also spent another morning in court with her stepson
Ay, ay, ay.
an hour ago. Prosecutors have signaled they'll call another one of Hunter's exes, including his sister-in-law, Hallie Biden.
Oh, my
They
God.
were together after Beau Biden died. She's at the center of this case as well. She's the one who discovered this gun, drove it to a
This
nearby
is Maury
store,
Povich
threw it in
had
the
sex with Jerry Springer
garbage.
and pooped out a Hunter Biden.
Well, you know how it's going to end? This is John and my prediction for this, and we've been predicting this for like a month. As soon as we saw that his trial was coming up June 3rd, we said, oh, look, Biden's going to pardon him.
Yep.
Watch, Joe Biden's going to pardon Hunter, and everybody's going to go, that's so corrupt.
You know what's really good if he does
said
that?
the same thing.
Do you know what happens though when somebody's pardoned, at least with regard to federal crimes? They can be compelled to testify.
They can't say no. They can't use a fifth.
Yep. Because it's not prosecutable. Look it up. They can be compelled to testify to
that's
something.
interesting.
Yeah. And now, if it's a state crime, though, if he can be prosecuted for that, he still retains his right to take the fifth.
I
Yeah,
kind of
but
figured he would just. I thought he brought his mommy to court so she would stare at the judge and then he would just get off. But what you're saying is interesting.
This isn't about
All right.
Hunter. This is about Joe.
No, this isn't about Hunter at all.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. I think I got 2 more.
Trial now, prosecutor Leo Wise is questioning Hunter's ex-wife Kathleen Buell. She testified that she found a crack pipe in Hunter's car in 2015. Hunter then admitted to her he had been smoking crack. Kathleen Buell said she was suspicious long before that Hunter
But
Biden
Trump's
had been
kids.
discharged from the Navy for
Yeah.
cocaine use. All of this testimony so important because Hunter's drug use and the timing of it goes to whether he lied on a federal handgun purchase application and acquired a weapon he should not have had.
They just admitted the laptop with all of the data on it. Now they can't refuse to enter that or classify it or anything.
What I found interesting on that very first clip, though, so Fox is saying, well, here's a shirtless Hunter with a crack pipe. We've all seen the fucking picture. Why couldn't Fox have put that up there? They had to show that shit chalk drawing from the court?
Because they want people to think and they want people to go ferret through the rabbit holes. You know, this is that series of holes in Yellow Submarine where everybody's popping in and out of holes.
Why did I see Pornhub come across my brain when you started talking about popping? All right.
I don't know, Joe. That's kind of a question. You need
I
to
don't know, Joe, that's really weird.
All right, let's keep going.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
The New York Post with a savage headline, Malarkey runs in the family. Hunter puts up the ridiculous I didn't lie gun defense like father.
Come on.
Yeah, this is so set up.
Carly's the greatest.
It's a perfect narrative so that the average person on the street can go, "Oh, did you hear what's happening?" And everybody's gonna watch, and then the pardon's gonna happen, and they're all gonna go, "But can you do that?" And now they all have to look up shit about the Constitution. So you get a civics class.
Maybe
we've been getting civics classes this whole time. Speaker of the House vote twice.
Yeah, so some people will learn, other people won't, but you can't get everybody, but they're going to get as many people as they can.
All right, so this last one is not the same Hunter smokes crack and bangs hookers video. This is slightly different.
Where the hell are you guys on this one too, Mike Johnson? Stop everything in Congress. Subpoena everyone. Don't take summer recess. Don't take weekends. Don't even get up to go to the bathroom. Get in there and subpoena everyone. This judge, his daughter, everyone affiliated with anything ever. I don't care if we stop building bridges and highways and stop funding our government. You fight fire with fire. Otherwise, these Marxists are going to keep doing this. And red state AGs, you guys better start hammering these people. You have the opportunity now. They cleared the way. Look, Democrats took what they alleged was a federal misdemeanor from the FEC and made it a state felony 34 times over. There's no rules, apparently. Step up.
Sheesh.
They're really trying hard. I mean, these people, I don't know what the fuck it takes to wake them up. But, like, they're pointing out how corrupt the existing Republicans are too. Both parties are going to be destroyed here, which is great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The whole government, the whole thing is a fugazi at this point.
I love that word, by the way.
Always has been, Joe. Yeah. Oh, by the way, one of the details I didn't specify since you said fugazi is that the original location of that pyramid found in the Sentinel, right? Go back to the Sentinel. They go to the moon. They find the pyramid. The original location in the Sentinel book is
Sea of Crisis.
Yeah, Sea of Crisis, right? But in 2001, they changed the location to Tychos, which is the biggest crater on the moon that's visible from Earth, right? So you look up Tychos, where'd that name came from? Or where did the name come from? It came from Tychos Brahe. He's a Danish astronomer. Everything in astronomy before Tychos Brahe was like astrology, astronomy, and it wasn't super scientific. And the king of Denmark granted him a crap load of money, and he built the first major observatory and converted astronomy into a science. They moved the pyramid from a sea of crises to full science and turned it into a monolith. That matches exactly what we're saying is going on.
That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, look, what are we at? We're like 3 hours in. So the Joe M video I'm going to play, I'm going to do one of the classics, right? So there's a reason I'm going to do this. This is yet again, Joe Rambo temperature gauge. There is no chance in hell this should fly on YouTube. There's no way that this YouTube doesn't get pulled down. If it doesn't, look, we've already pulled up Q drops. We've done connections. We've done it all so far. And YouTube has only pulled me down 2 times for copyright infringement because of music. That's pretty typical. Copyrights are a big deal. But the way that we've been able to talk so freely about the drops and pull them up and go so deep into them, I am interested to find out if this flies. This is a 9-minute Joe M video. You can't post this on Facebook a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. You can't post this on YouTube. You can't post this anywhere. Certainly couldn't post it on what was Twitter. So I'm going to do this not only to give everybody that's watching on the other 3 platforms if you aren't aware of the legend that Joe M is, as we talked about him earlier, I want everyone to see that. And I also want to see if this flies, because we're getting fairly close to being able to monetize on YouTube. So if this flies right now on YouTube, I will be absolutely blown away, and it will give me an idea of future direction as far as that platform and reaching the people. I was going to say a different word, but reaching the people that are on YouTube. So I am super stoked to play this, but because it's 9 minutes long, I want you guys now, if you don't mind, to do like kind of like the saying goodbye part. Like, where can everybody find you? The thing that we always do at the end of the show. So, Paul, if you want to go first, just because you're at the top here for me, and tell everybody.
Yeah, all the coordinates. So I have a Substack. It's sapioplex.substack.com, just like Sapioplex there. And then I have a couple of websites. One is pershivelt.com, PERSHIVELT.com. Another one is sapiocracy.com, which is SAPIOCRACY.com. Those two websites right now, you're going to get a security warning. The SSL certificates I have are not being served properly. Gosh, I wonder why. Somebody doesn't want too many people to look at it. So most people won't have the backbone to put a security exception in there and go look at it. If you look at it, it's just a collection of all of our podcasts and pointers to the Substack articles.
Awesome. JFAnon.
I can never get this right. JF_anon on X, JFAnon on Truth. And I appear sometimes infrequently or sporadically, let's say.
Less and less over time.
Yeah, it's been busy though too. This graduation stuff has been like all consuming. So
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it for sure. Well, I'm always grateful to have you too. I can't wait to continue this conversation with both of you. You guys are welcome to hang out, and I'm gonna say goodbye and thank you and stuff after the video, but it is a 9-minute video, so I want to do it now. If you guys have to bounce, you can. If you want to stay and say goodbye to everybody with me, you also can, but I'm going to make this full screen and we're going to see what happens. I think it's an interesting temperature gauge. So let's see what happens by playing a little old school Joe M. This is We Are the Plan. It's one of the legendary videos by Joe M. I'm going to take us all the way off, make Joe all the way big, and let's see what happens.
Something is going on. Some of us see it, some of us feel it. It's time to expand your thinking. You will need to reset everything you thought you knew about the world, about the people you trust, about history, about yourself. Let me tell you a story. For a very long time, our world has been under the growing influence of a vast transgenerational criminal mafia that was able to rise up to the highest levels of power. We didn't know because they talked and acted just like you and me. We thought we could recognize true criminals by their words and actions, but were deceived by their sophisticated speech, wealth, education, beauty, and power. Through a system of threats, blackmail, and bribery, they would come to occupy the highest levels of power in government, corporations, and education. You may know them as the deep state or cabal. Most dangerously of all, they achieved almost total influence over the media, their primary means of controlling the good people of the world who were just trying to get on with living. They used this power to slowly convince us that we were the problem, that we were a threat to each other. They used race, gender, and religion to set us apart, and rewrote history to validate these false claims. They funded both sides of wars just to crush our potential to prosper and succeed as a peace-loving and creative force of good for the world. Now, with their firm grasp on the media, we drank in their entertainment and lies as they began their final phase, the total takedown of America. We were the brightest remaining beacon of freedom and humanity's last hope. They knew that if they could take America, the rest of the world would follow. They cut deals that led us to hand over total control of the money system to a private central bank, the Federal Reserve. This made it possible to influence Washington, D.C., and most of our presidents since then were beholden to the criminals in one way or another. Things took a really bad turn when they concentrated vast power into the hands of the many civilian intelligence agencies throughout the world. They said they were there to protect us. Instead, these agencies were catastrophically weaponized to boost drug and human trafficking cartels, assassinate political opponents, undermine the military, and change regimes of foreign governments who did not want to adopt the centralized system of money control. You might think they would choose simply to remain in the shadows running their criminal activities while we carried on with our lives. But as long as there was freedom for the people to prosper, the cabal were always at risk of being discovered and shut down. There was no way to continue without a plan to eliminate all threats to their survival, even if it meant imposing a single world government under their jurisdiction, where no national identity, police force, or military could stop them. They called it globalism. Exploiting our emotions and our instincts of compassion, they found a way to justify dismantling cultures, borders, and national identity under the guise of social justice, creating false narratives of racism, colonialism, and capitalism to destabilize and ultimately collapse societies so they were no longer secure enough to reject this dark plan for the world. Where there was no history to distort, they would use wars to force a catastrophic mass migration of peoples across borders to destabilize and weaken cultural identity. When we didn't accept this, they called us intolerant and shamed us into silence. By 2008, America was in advanced stages of economic decline, with disastrous trade deals leading to widespread loss of jobs and a devastating financial crisis. The cabal had now absorbed another extensive criminal empire that was aligned with a twisted and radical form of Islam. Realizing the competition could threaten their goals, they decided to cooperate and agree to mutual terms. Now a hostile foreign enemy was able to insert a subordinate into the U.S. political system who would become the president. Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal funded Obama's Harvard education and took power by proxy, picking his entire cabinet while buying vast quantities of control in our largest media companies. The Western faction of the cabal was different. It was another kind of sick altogether. A dark and deeply sinister death cult with a strong reliance on symbolism and numerology, with levels of cruelty unimaginable to all right-thinking people. The reach and scale the secret society had achieved would have sent destabilizing shockwaves across the world were it ever to be publicly exposed. They were highly skilled at living just below the surface as they worked their way into the United States presidency. With both factions of the global mafia now in control, are you ready to hear what they had planned? Make sure you're sitting down. They installed rogue operators in government. They opened back doors to leak highly classified military intel and top-secret special access programs. They cut military funding and weakened the command of generals with irrational new rules of engagement. They worked to dismantle NASA and end our supremacy in space. They infiltrated and exposed defensive military intelligence programs that reduced our ability to detect foreign and domestic threats. They used our trusted agencies to target and weaken political opponents. They relaxed our borders and enabled passage of millions of illegals and violent criminal gangs. They moved money to fund global terrorism, resulting in groups like ISIS moving to capture vast territories throughout the world. In 2016, the Cabal Alliance had hoped to retain power. If you are not yet chilled to the bone by the picture that is forming about their intentions for us all, let me tell you what was to come next. Through international climate change scams, they would have siphoned trillions of remaining wealth, eliminate the last good guys in government, and withdraw total funding from the U.S. military, handing over the responsibility of our defense to the United Nations. They would revise the Constitution to weaken our ability to fight back, ban the sale of firearms to eliminate our self-defense, insert their people into the Supreme Court, remove the Electoral College system to neuter our voting power, and totally eliminate alternative media to shield them from exposure. They instigated a covert deal to move large quantities of our uranium to their captured states in North Korea and Iran to build up a nuclear arsenal that would threaten the world. For this, they blamed Russia, a growing force of opposition to their ambitions of global control. By casting Putin as an enemy and blaming him for this illegal uranium deal, they had planned a devastating nuclear world war between America and Russia that would have exhausted the last two remaining pillars of freedom for the world, accelerating the horrific endgame that had become inevitable. This cabal miraculously lost power in 2016 when a brave operation, led by a U.S. military alliance and their global partners, were able to return power legitimately over to the light. They had a plan of their very own, one that was many decades in the making. With Donald Trump selected for the role of president, the people of America were slowly awakened to the reality of the world they live in. With so much hidden and lied about in the media channels we had come to trust for our news and entertainment, this alliance of good set into motion a sophisticated strategy of dismantling the vast network of corruption that had almost completely overcome every level of government, industry, and the legal system. They knew they had to follow the laws of the land as they were originally intended. Otherwise, they themselves would be delegitimized, even though they were just trying to free us from the silent stranglehold of tyranny that we had come to accept as normal. The panicking deep state used any remaining power they had left to try and save themselves. Each day for 2 years was a careful and meticulously planned balancing act between public perception and the job that needed to be done. Moving too fast would shock and scare a sleeping public still living in the prison of the mind that was created for them. But after all this, it appears now that not only are we winning, but we have won. The trajectory of this great storm is now radiantly clear. Now we look forward to a new future, thanks to the brave patriots who risked everything to save our world. This time for good. There is not a person alive who has experienced what a world without this darkness could be like. A world of free energy that was kept from us to force our dependency on their fossil fuel monopolies. Abolishment of income tax that was illegally imposed to pay back interest on loans taken from the cabal banking system. Released cures for our most deadly diseases. Unleashed space technologies to open frontiers we never dreamed possible. New technologies creating millions of jobs and yielding a global human renaissance the likes of which we have never seen. Fellow Americans and citizens of the world, now it is our turn to shine. Wherever we are, we will become the plan when we choose to reject what they call globalism. We recognize the words they use to bend us to their will, and we say no more. It's time to turn off the media, follow your instincts, trust yourself, and be the plan. May God bless America and the world.
Boom. So now if you don't know, you do know now why Joe M is such a legend within this movement. That is only one of many videos that dude has made. They are all brilliant. That is why the hint that I suggested that he's still amongst us was such a big hint. However, you will get no more out of me. That dude is amazing. And YouTube still has a green check mark as it stands. We'll see how it processes. We'll see how it processes out. But right now it says we're still live.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The times they are changing.
There isn't, like, I didn't do that just for me, but maybe people can start talking on YouTube again.
Mhm.
There's still a lot of people on YouTube. Why are they letting me talk about Q?
Because it's that time. It's the time in the act 3, scene 4.
Yeah. Why are they letting us say the things that we're saying? They clearly don't mind if this kind of information gets out. So we're either blatantly wrong, or they don't mind if people know that they exist. And I think given the monolithic world we're going into, they're okay with people knowing that somebody's running the world, because people will realize, well, shit, they just cleaned up all of crime.
One of you guys has a vacuum going on in the background?
I know, it's not me. I saw Paul reach over and turn something on.
No, it's just my microphone. It's the way it always has been, but there are 2 machines running right here.
Yeah.
So.
That's
no worries. We're getting out of here. We'll do it again. So let me do the whole show thing here and say thank you to everybody. I don't believe there's anybody that donated I needed to catch up with, but I am going to do one more time what I always ask. If you guys could hit whatever platform you're on's positive affirmation button, share the show out, let your friends know that we're here. That is the best possible thing you can do to support this show. If you believe people have an open mind and they want to be part of this conversation, please let them know what time we're on, when they can be in the chat. Otherwise, I do go back periodically throughout the day and check the hard comments for people that want to say something once they're watching the replay. I know that we're a midday show, but I got to raise kids and have a job, so there's got to be something else here. It seems that lots and lots of people like watching the replay, and if you do choose to support this show, when you're watching the replay, across that banner does tell you how. And if you read the whole banner, you'll see that it does not cost anything to watch the show. It is completely free. But if you do choose to support, there is the way that you can do it running across that banner. Guys, this has been exhausting. Mind expanding and awesome as usual. You guys rule.
Man,
I
thanks
can't
for
wait.
having us. These are so much fun to do this.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, I get tired of this guy once in a while and having a conversation with a third party. No, I'm kidding. You know, Paul and I talk a lot, and this is just scratching the surface of.
It really is. There's so, like, if you think what you heard today was mind blowing, John and I don't talk about what would you say, 90% of what we found in the last 2 or 3 months.
Yeah,
it's.
Don't worry, guys. I'll keep working on them.
It's all, there's so much that is so related to this stuff. I mean, like we talked about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. That one is so good.
Well, if you guys want to do it again, I think I work most of the early next week, but then I'll be having another week where I can do shows. If you guys are down, I'm always down for you two. The door's always open.
I'm doing a father-daughter trip for 2 weeks, starting Monday the 17th. So I will be out.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll stay in touch. If we can do something before that, would you be down?
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. Next week.
I'll have to look. I got to go upstairs and look. Like I said,
John's going to be out of town when all this shit hits.
I'm going to be in another country. That's the thing. It's going to be, will I get home or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember in 2020, I ordered an e-bike. I ordered a Suron, a really cool like electric dirt bike, and I couldn't. And I was scared to order it because I thought like everything was going to get shut down.
Oh yeah, 5 years ago I was flipped out. I mean, I shut down my company because I was so flipped out.
Fajin to Sweden. No, I was posting that for LiegeNet, who's from Sweden. I was posting the Monty Python why not try a trip to Sweden and see all the lovely, many furry animals. No, I'm actually going. We're going to Croatia, and I'm really excited. Culinary stuff, foodie stuff.
What's their good food?
Truffles, oysters,
truffles,
Dalmatian cuisine.
That's like Vietnamese. Sorry.
Just got it. Yeah, it's supposedly a really cool place. So my daughter, it's kind of a graduation gift. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll go up and check my schedule. We'll figure out when we can do this again. Everybody show up tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Absolute 1776 will be on with me, just one-on-one, hanging out. I'm sure going over some of this cartoon narrative, some connections, and playing with some of the current news. That dude's awesome, though. He is doing us a huge favor and helping this channel. I hope that everybody goes and supports him just as much so that it's mutual. I am stoked that he's coming. Him and Stormy Patriot shows, Joe, did amazing. Of course it did, right? They're super popular. They're on Badlands. But Absolute coming to offering to come just hang out with me. It's such an honor. I can't wait. Tomorrow's going to be awesome. So, yeah, if you guys are around, check that one out. It's going to be cool.
I will. It should be.
And I will definitely let you know as soon as I get upstairs and look at my rotating schedule when we can do this again. So.
Awesome.
We'll be here.
All right, guys. Much love. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Thank everybody in the chat. Thanks, Joe. And see you later, fucker.
I cut him out. Later, Paul.
All right, take it easy.